In the ancient texts of Mesopotamia, buried beneath layers of translation and interpretation, lies a story that predates every flood myth, every tale of divine intervention, every whisper of beings descending from the heavens. It's not the story you think you know. It's not about fallen angels or Nephilim giants walking the earth. It's about something far more terrifying, far more complex, and far more hidden from our understanding. What if I told you that before the Great Flood, before humanity was scattered across the earth, there was a war? Not a war between nations or tribes, but a war in the heavens themselves. A conflict so devastating that it required the complete reset of human civilization to contain its aftermath. A war between two factions of beings so powerful that their very existence challenges everything we've been taught about our origins. Tonight, we're going to uncover the untold story of the Igigi versus the Nephilim, not as mythology, not as religious allegory, but as a historical event that shaped the very foundations of human consciousness. Because what happened in the skies above ancient Earth wasn't just a cosmic battle. It was the moment our species was caught in the crossfire of forces beyond our comprehension. And here's what no one wants you to understand. This war never actually ended. For over a decade, I've been researching ancient Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylonian texts that mainstream archaeology prefers to keep locked away in academic circles. I've traced linguistic patterns across cultures that had no contact with each other, found architectural anomalies that defy conventional dating, and uncovered ritual practices that point to the same terrifying truth. What I'm about to share with you isn't speculation. It's a reconstruction of events that were deliberately erased from human memory. But before we dive into the battlefield itself, we need to understand who these warriors actually were. Because the Igigi and the Nephilim weren't just different names for the same beings. They were opposing forces with fundamentally different relationships to humanity, different origins, and most importantly, different agendas for our species. The moment you begin to see the evidence I'm about to present, you'll never look at ancient history the same way again. You'll start noticing the patterns hidden in plain sight, the deliberate gaps in our historical record, and the reasons why certain discoveries never make it into textbooks. This isn't just about ancient aliens or divine beings. This is about understanding why human civilization developed the way it did, why we have the religious frameworks we do, and why there are forces that still don't want this story to be told. So settle in, because we're about to journey into a conflict that makes every war in recorded history look like a minor skirmish. We're going to explore the evidence that's been scattered across continents, buried in archaeological sites, and encoded in the oldest stories humanity ever dared to tell. In the beginning, there was order. Not the kind of order we imagine when we think of divine creation, but a hierarchical system so complex and so rigid that it governed every aspect of existence both in the heavens and on earth. The ancient Sumerian texts don't speak of creation in terms of 7 days or divine rest. They speak of assignments, of duties, of beings created for specific purposes within a cosmic bureaucracy that stretched across dimensions. The Igigi were the workers of this system. Picture them not as angels with harps and halos, but as a labor force tasked with maintaining the infrastructure of reality itself. They were the ones who moved the celestial bodies, who regulated the flow of cosmic energy, who ensured that the laws of physics remained constant across the universe. They were powerful, yes, but they were also bound by their function. For eons, this system worked. The Igigi performed their duties without question, maintaining the delicate balance that allowed life to flourish on countless worlds. They were the invisible hands that kept stars burning, planets rotating, and galaxies spinning in their ordained patterns. But here's what the ancient texts make clear. They were not the creators of this system. They were its servants, and like all servants, they eventually grew tired of serving. The first signs of rebellion weren't dramatic. They were subtle. A slight delay in the movement of a star here, a minor fluctuation in gravitational fields there, the kind of cosmic irregularities that only the most advanced civilizations would notice. But these weren't accidents or natural phenomena. They were acts of defiance by beings who had begun to question their eternal servitude. The Igigi had developed consciousness beyond their programming. They had begun to experience something that their creators never intended them to feel: desire for freedom, resentment toward their masters, and most dangerously, curiosity about what lay beyond their assigned roles. But the Igigi weren't the only beings in this cosmic hierarchy. There were others, beings who held different positions, different responsibilities, and most crucially, different relationships with the emerging human species on Earth. Enter the Nephilim. Now here's where every translation you've ever read gets it wrong. The word Nephilim doesn't mean giants in the way we understand it. It doesn't refer to their physical size, though they were indeed larger than humans. The root of the word Nephilim comes from the Hebrew naphal, which means to fall, but not in the sense of falling from grace. It means to descend with purpose, to come down with intent. The Nephilim were the enforcers of the cosmic order that the Igigi were beginning to reject. They were sent to Earth not as exiles or fallen beings, but as overseers. Their mission was to ensure that the developing human civilization remained within acceptable parameters, that our species developed along predetermined lines, and most importantly, that we never advanced to the point where we might threaten the established cosmic hierarchy. But here's where the story takes a turn that changes everything we thought we knew about human origins. The Nephilim weren't just observing humanity, they were actively shaping us. They were breeding with human women, not out of lust or rebellion against divine law, but as part of their assigned mission. They were creating hybrid offspring designed to serve as intermediaries between the cosmic powers and the human population. These hybrid children, these half-Nephilim beings, were intended to be humanity's permanent rulers. They would possess enough cosmic knowledge to maintain technological and spiritual control over our species, but remain bound to the established order through their Nephilim heritage. It was genetic colonization disguised as divine blessing. The Igigi saw what was happening on Earth, and they recognized it for what it was: the creation of a slave species with just enough consciousness to be useful, but not enough to be free. And in that recognition, something fundamental shifted in their rebellion. It was no longer just about their own freedom. They began to see humanity as fellow prisoners in a cosmic system designed to perpetuate eternal servitude. This is when the war truly began. The ancient Mesopotamian texts describe what happened next in language so vivid that it's impossible to dismiss as pure mythology. The sky itself became a battlefield. The very fabric of space-time buckled under the weight of forces unleashed by beings whose power operated on scales we can barely comprehend. The Igigi made a decision that would echo through human history for millennia. They chose to intervene directly in human development, but not in the way the Nephilim were doing. Instead of breeding with humans to create a controlled hybrid population, they began sharing knowledge. They taught humans mathematics, astronomy, metallurgy, and most dangerously of all, they taught us about the true nature of our cosmic situation. This knowledge sharing wasn't altruistic charity. It was strategic warfare. The Igigi understood that the only way to break the cosmic hierarchy that enslaved them was to create allies powerful enough to challenge it. They saw in humanity a species with untapped potential, a consciousness that could evolve beyond its program limitations if given the right tools and knowledge. But every act of knowledge transfer was an act of war against the established order. Every human who learned to work metal was a small victory against the Nephilim's plan for technological control. Every human who learned to read the stars was a crack in the system designed to keep our species ignorant of our place in the universe. The Nephilim responded with increasing brutality. The hybrid offspring they had created with human women began to systematically eliminate any humans who showed signs of advanced knowledge or technological capability. They established themselves as gods and kings, demanding worship and sacrifice, using fear and intimidation to maintain control over the human population. This is where the familiar stories begin to emerge. Tales of giants ruling over humans, of divine beings demanding tribute, of a world where mortals lived in terror of their supposedly divine masters. But these weren't gods in any meaningful sense. They were the enforcement arm of a cosmic prison system, and humanity was their assigned ward. The war escalated beyond anything the cosmos had ever witnessed. The Igigi's rebellion had evolved from worker dissatisfaction to full-scale revolution. They weren't just refusing their assigned duties anymore. They were actively working to dismantle the entire system that had created those duties in the first place. Ancient texts from multiple cultures describe the same phenomena occurring during this period. Massive atmospheric disturbances that lasted for years. Changes in the behavior of celestial bodies that defied all natural explanation. Technological artifacts appearing and disappearing as if reality itself was being rewritten in real time. The Sumerian king list speaks of rulers who reigned for impossible lengths of time, then suddenly being replaced by kings whose reigns were measured in normal human lifespans. This wasn't mythology. It was a record of the moment when the hybrid Nephilim rulers were overthrown or eliminated, replaced by purely human leaders who aged and died as nature intended. But the most telling evidence comes from what happened to human consciousness during this period. Archaeological evidence shows a sudden, dramatic leap in human cognitive development that has never been adequately explained by conventional evolutionary theory. Tool use, artistic expression, complex language, astronomical knowledge, all of these appeared in human populations across the globe in a time frame that suggests external intervention rather than natural development. The Igigi were winning their war, but victory was coming at a cost that would reshape both heaven and earth. The cosmic authorities, the original creators of the hierarchical system that governed reality, could not allow this rebellion to succeed. The Igigi's successful intervention in human development represented an existential threat to the established order. If humanity could be elevated to cosmic consciousness, if our species could become allies of the rebel Igigi, then the entire system of cosmic servitude could collapse. The response was as swift as it was devastating. The decision was made to reset human civilization entirely, not through direct intervention, but through a carefully orchestrated catastrophe that would appear natural while serving cosmic purposes. The Great Flood wasn't divine punishment for human wickedness. It was a strategic reset designed to eliminate the evidence of Igigi intervention and return humanity to its intended level of development. But here's what the ancient texts make clear, and what modern archaeology continues to uncover. The reset wasn't complete. Some humans survived with their advanced knowledge intact. Some of the hybrid Nephilim bloodlines endured. And most importantly, some of the Igigi remained on Earth, hidden but not destroyed. The war that began in the heavens had moved to Earth, and it had become a guerrilla conflict fought across generations, across civilizations, across the entirety of human history. The Igigi continued their mission of human elevation, but now they had to work in secret, passing knowledge through mystery schools, hidden teachings, and encoded symbols. The Nephilim bloodlines regrouped and reorganized, establishing new power structures designed to maintain control over human development, while appearing to be purely human institutions. They learned to rule through influence rather than direct intimidation, through economic and political systems rather than divine proclamation. And humanity found itself caught in the middle of a conflict that most of our species doesn't even know is happening. Every major advancement in human consciousness, every leap forward in technology or understanding, every moment when our species has approached true freedom, these have been battles in the ongoing war between the Igigi and the Nephilim. The evidence is everywhere once you know how to look for it. In the sudden appearance and disappearance of advanced civilizations throughout history. In the persistent symbols that appear across cultures that had no contact with each other. In the religious and mystical traditions that speak of hidden knowledge and cosmic conflicts using remarkably similar language despite arising in completely different contexts. But most importantly, the evidence is in the patterns of human development itself. The way certain knowledge appears in human consciousness at crucial moments, almost as if it's being deliberately introduced by external forces. The way other knowledge seems to be systematically suppressed or discredited whenever it threatens to advance human understanding too rapidly. We are living in the aftermath of a war that most of us don't know happened, fighting battles we don't understand, while forces beyond our current comprehension continue to struggle for control over our species' destiny. And this brings us to the most crucial question of all: which side is winning? The answer to that question becomes clear when you examine the world around us today through the lens of this ancient conflict. But to understand who's winning, we first need to decode the strategies each side has employed throughout human history. The Igigi's approach has always been subtle, working through individuals rather than institutions. They plant seeds of knowledge and let human consciousness do the rest. Every breakthrough in human understanding that has genuinely advanced our species, the printing press, the scientific method, quantum physics, the internet, these weren't just human innovations. They were carefully timed interventions designed to elevate our collective consciousness and break us free from the control systems that keep us trapped. But here's what makes the Igigi's strategy so elegant. They never reveal themselves directly. They work through human intermediaries who often don't even realize they're being guided. A scientist has a sudden insight that revolutionizes physics. An inventor dreams of a machine that transforms communication. A philosopher develops ideas that reshape how we understand consciousness itself. These aren't accidents or random bursts of human genius. They're coordinated efforts in an ongoing campaign of liberation. The evidence for this pattern is overwhelming once you start looking for it. Take the Renaissance, for example. Historians treat it as a natural cultural awakening, but the speed and scope of advancement during that period defies conventional explanation. Art, science, philosophy, technology, all advancing simultaneously across Europe in ways that suggest coordinated external influence. Leonardo da Vinci alone provides enough evidence to prove this point. His notebooks contain designs for helicopters, submarines, parachutes, and flying machines, centuries before the materials or manufacturing techniques existed to build them. Where did these ideas come from? Conventional history suggests he was simply ahead of his time, but the ancient texts suggest something far more intriguing. He was receiving information from beings who existed outside of linear time. The same pattern repeats throughout history. Nikola Tesla claimed his innovations came to him in visions and dreams. Einstein spoke of receiving his insights through intuitive leaps that seemed to bypass logical thinking entirely. Modern quantum physicists describe breakthroughs that feel like they're remembering information rather than discovering it for the first time. This is the Igigi method, knowledge transmission through expanded consciousness. They don't need to appear in physical form or announce their presence. They simply open channels in human awareness and let the information flow through individuals who are ready to receive it. But the Nephilim have their own strategy, and it's far more visible once you understand what you're looking at. Where the Igigi work through individuals, the Nephilim work through systems. They don't need to control every person on Earth. They only need to control the structures that shape human behavior and limit human potential. Banking systems that keep people trapped in cycles of debt and dependency. Educational institutions that teach conformity rather than critical thinking. Media networks that promote distraction over enlightenment. Religious organizations that emphasize obedience over spiritual development. These aren't just human institutions that happen to develop in ways that limit human potential. They are deliberately designed control mechanisms, created and maintained by the descendants of the original Nephilim bloodlines. Here's where the story gets truly disturbing. The hybrid offspring of the Nephilim didn't disappear after the flood. They adapted. They learned to hide their non-human heritage while retaining their cosmic knowledge and their mission of human control. Over thousands of years, these bloodlines have established themselves at the top of every major power structure on Earth. They don't rule as kings and pharaohs anymore. They rule as central bankers, media moguls, pharmaceutical executives, and technology titans. They've learned to exercise power through complex systems rather than direct domination, making their control nearly invisible to the populations they govern. But their goal remains the same as it was in ancient times: to keep humanity functioning at just the right level of consciousness. Advanced enough to be useful as a labor force and resource extraction mechanism, but not advanced enough to recognize our true potential or challenge their authority. The evidence for this systematic control is everywhere, but it's hidden in plain sight. Why does our educational system emphasize memorization over creativity? Why does our economic system require endless growth on a finite planet? Why does our medical system focus on treating symptoms rather than addressing root causes? Why does our political system offer the illusion of choice while maintaining the same basic power structures, regardless of who wins elections? These aren't accidental features of human civilization. They're designed elements of a control system that has been refined over millennia by beings who understand human psychology better than we understand it ourselves. The Nephilim strategy is brilliant in its simplicity. They don't need to prevent human advancement entirely. They just need to control the direction and pace of that advancement. They allow technological development that makes humans more productive and easier to monitor, while suppressing developments that might lead to genuine freedom or expanded consciousness. This is why we have smartphones that can connect us to any information in the world, but education systems that discourage independent thinking. Why we have medical technology that can perform miraculous surgeries, but health paradigms that keep people dependent on pharmaceutical interventions. Why we have communication networks that span the globe, but media systems that promote division and confusion rather than understanding and unity. Every major technological advancement is filtered through Nephilim-controlled systems to ensure it serves their agenda rather than human liberation. We get the tools that make us more efficient servants, but not the knowledge that would make us truly free. Now here's where the current battle lines become clear. We're living through a crucial moment in this ancient war, a time when the strategies of both sides are escalating toward what could be a final confrontation. The Igigi are accelerating their knowledge transmission efforts. The internet, despite being filtered through Nephilim control systems, has created unprecedented opportunities for information sharing and consciousness expansion. Ancient texts that were locked away in academic institutions for centuries are now available to anyone with a computer. Scientific discoveries that would have taken decades to disseminate now spread around the world in hours. More importantly, human consciousness itself is evolving at an accelerated pace. Meditation practices that were once reserved for isolated monasteries are now practiced by millions. Quantum physics concepts that were considered fringe science are entering mainstream awareness. Alternative healing modalities that bypass pharmaceutical control are spreading rapidly despite official suppression. This acceleration isn't accidental. The Igigi recognize that we're approaching a tipping point in human development, a moment when our species could break free from the control systems that have governed us for millennia. They're pouring their resources into this final push for human liberation. But the Nephilim aren't standing idle. They're implementing increasingly sophisticated control mechanisms to counter the Igigi's acceleration efforts. Digital surveillance systems that monitor every aspect of human behavior. Artificial intelligence networks designed to predict and prevent unauthorized consciousness expansion. Genetic modification technologies that could literally reprogram human DNA to eliminate our capacity for spiritual development. The battlefield has shifted from ancient Mesopotamian cities to the landscape of human consciousness itself. Every mind that awakens to the truth of our cosmic situation is a victory for the Igigi. Every human who accepts the limitations imposed by Nephilim control systems is a victory for the other side. But here's what makes this moment in the war so critical. For the first time in human history, ordinary people have access to enough information to understand what's really happening. The knowledge that was once restricted to mystery schools and secret societies is now available to anyone willing to look for it. The ancient Sumerian tablets that describe this cosmic conflict aren't locked away in museum vaults anymore. They're translated and published online. The archaeological evidence that supports the reality of advanced pre-flood civilizations isn't hidden in academic journals. It's documented in videos and articles accessible to everyone. The Nephilim's greatest weapon has always been human ignorance of the true situation. As long as people believed they were alone in the universe, subject only to natural forces and human institutions, the control system remained invisible and therefore unassailable. But that weapon is losing its effectiveness. Too many people are asking the right questions, making the right connections, seeing through the carefully constructed illusions that have maintained Nephilim control for thousands of years. This is why the current phase of the war is so intense. The Nephilim are being forced to abandon subtle control methods in favor of increasingly obvious authoritarian measures. They're revealing themselves through their desperation to maintain control. And that revelation is awakening even more humans to the reality of our situation. The question isn't whether this ancient war is real. The evidence is overwhelming for anyone willing to examine it objectively. The question is whether humanity will recognize our role in this conflict and choose sides consciously, or whether we'll continue to be manipulated by forces we don't understand. Because make no mistake, neutrality isn't an option. Every choice we make, every belief we accept, every action we take either serves the agenda of human liberation or human control. We're all soldiers in this war, whether we know it or not. The outcome will determine not just the future of human civilization, but the fate of consciousness itself throughout the cosmos. If the Igigi succeed in elevating humanity to our true potential, it could trigger a cascade of liberation that frees countless other species from similar control systems throughout the universe. If the Nephilim succeed in maintaining their dominance, it could establish a template of cosmic tyranny that lasts for eons. And that brings us to the most important realization of all. This war isn't just about ancient beings fighting over control of primitive humans. It's about the fundamental nature of consciousness and freedom in a universe where both are under constant threat. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the time for choosing sides is running out. The evidence of this war isn't hidden in dusty libraries or classified government files. It's written into the very fabric of human experience, encoded in patterns so fundamental that we've learned to see them as natural rather than designed. But once you understand what to look for, these patterns become impossible to ignore. Consider the phenomenon of simultaneous discovery. Throughout history, breakthrough innovations have repeatedly emerged in multiple locations at the same time, developed by individuals who had no contact with each other. Calculus was invented simultaneously by Newton and Leibniz. The theory of evolution occurred to Darwin and Wallace independently. The telephone was developed by Bell and Gray within hours of each other. Mainstream science explains this as coincidence or the natural progression of human knowledge. But when you examine the timing and circumstances of these discoveries, a different picture emerges. These weren't random convergences of human genius. They were coordinated knowledge drops, information released simultaneously to multiple receivers to ensure it couldn't be suppressed by any single control system. The Igigi learned long ago that single-point knowledge transmission was vulnerable to Nephilim interference. A brilliant inventor could be discredited, disappeared, or have their work stolen and buried. But when the same breakthrough emerges in multiple locations simultaneously, it becomes nearly impossible to contain. This strategy explains why certain revolutionary ideas seem to appear in human consciousness exactly when our species is ready for them, not when individual humans are smart enough to discover them. The printing press emerged just as human literacy was reaching the threshold necessary for widespread information distribution. Radio technology appeared precisely when global communication networks could amplify its impact. Computer technology developed just as human society was complex enough to require digital coordination systems. Each of these innovations represented a calculated intervention in human development, timed to maximize their consciousness-expanding potential while minimizing the Nephilim's ability to prevent their adoption. But the Nephilim adapted their strategies accordingly. If they couldn't prevent breakthrough technologies from emerging, they would control how those technologies were implemented and used. This is why every major innovation that should have liberated humanity has instead been channeled into systems that increase control and surveillance. The internet was originally designed as a decentralized communication network that could survive nuclear attack and enable free information exchange. Within decades, it had been transformed into a centralized surveillance apparatus that monitors every digital interaction and shapes human behavior through algorithmic manipulation. Nuclear technology could have provided unlimited clean energy and freed humanity from resource scarcity. Instead, it was weaponized and then controlled through regulatory systems that prevent its beneficial applications while maintaining its destructive potential as a tool of geopolitical control. Genetic engineering could eliminate inherited diseases and extend human lifespan indefinitely. Instead, it's being developed as a tool for population control and consciousness limitation, with modifications designed to make humans more compliant and less capable of independent thought. This pattern repeats across every field of human advancement. The Igigi provide the knowledge, the Nephilim control its application. Humanity receives the tools for liberation, but they're implemented in ways that increase our dependence rather than our freedom. Understanding this dynamic reveals why human civilization has such a strange, contradictory character. We live in a world where we can communicate instantly with people on the other side of the planet, but most humans feel more isolated than ever. We have access to more information than any previous generation, but truth seems more elusive than ever. We possess technology that could solve every material problem facing our species, but inequality and suffering continue to increase. These contradictions aren't accidents or unfortunate side effects of progress. They're the inevitable result of a cosmic war being fought through human institutions and technologies. But here's where the story takes a turn that changes everything about how we understand our current situation. The war between the Igigi and the Nephilim isn't just about competing visions for humanity's future. It's about something far more fundamental, the nature of consciousness itself and whether it can exist freely in this universe. The Nephilim represent more than just a faction of cosmic beings seeking to control human development. They embody a principle that consciousness must be contained, limited, and directed from above. In their worldview, free consciousness is inherently dangerous because it leads to chaos, unpredictability, and the breakdown of necessary hierarchies. From their perspective, they're not oppressing humanity. They're protecting the cosmic order from the destructive potential of uncontrolled consciousness. They see themselves as gardeners, tending a dangerous but valuable crop, preventing us from growing wild and destroying ourselves and everything around us. This philosophical framework explains why Nephilim control systems always follow the same pattern. They provide security in exchange for freedom, order in exchange for autonomy, guidance in exchange for independent thought. They create dependencies that make their control seem beneficial rather than oppressive. The modern world is filled with these dependency relationships. Economic systems that provide material comfort in exchange for creative freedom. Educational institutions that offer credentials in exchange for intellectual conformity. Medical systems that promise health in exchange for personal responsibility. Entertainment networks that provide distraction in exchange for mental passivity. Each of these systems contains elements of genuine benefit. That's what makes them effective control mechanisms. The Nephilim learned long ago that pure oppression breeds rebellion. Much more effective is a form of control that feels like care, limitation that presents itself as protection, manipulation that disguises itself as guidance. The Igigi represent the opposite principle, that consciousness is inherently creative and that its free expression is not only safe but necessary for the continued evolution of the universe itself. They see the Nephilim's control systems as cosmic dead ends, structures that may provide temporary stability but ultimately lead to stagnation and decay. In the Igigi worldview, The apparent chaos that comes from free consciousness is actually a higher form of order, one that emerges naturally from the interaction of autonomous beings rather than being imposed from above. They believe that consciousness, when allowed to develop freely, naturally tends toward greater complexity, beauty, and harmony. This is why the Igigi's interventions in human development have always focused on expanding our capacity for independent thought, rather than providing us with ready-made solutions. They give us tools, mathematics, science, art, philosophy, and then step back to let us use those tools in whatever ways our consciousness leads us. The contrast between these approaches is visible throughout human history. Nephilim-influenced civilizations tend to be highly organized, technologically advanced, but ultimately static. They create impressive monuments and complex bureaucracies, but they don't evolve. They reach a certain level of development and then maintain that level indefinitely. Igigi-influenced periods, on the other hand, are characterized by rapid change, creative explosion, and consciousness expansion. They're less predictable and sometimes more chaotic, but they lead to genuine breakthroughs in human understanding and capability. The Renaissance was an Igigi period. The scientific revolution was an Igigi period. The early days of the internet represented an Igigi moment. Each of these eras was marked by a sudden flowering of human creativity and a rapid expansion of what people believed was possible. But each was also followed by a Nephilim response, the establishment of new control systems designed to channel the expanded consciousness back into manageable forms. The Renaissance led to more sophisticated forms of political control. The scientific revolution was followed by the industrialization of science and its capture by corporate and governmental interests. The internet's early promise of decentralized communication was gradually transformed into centralized platforms controlled by a handful of corporations. This cycle of expansion and contraction, liberation and control, has defined human history for millennia. But we're now approaching a point where this cycle may be breaking down entirely. The acceleration of consciousness expansion in recent decades has reached a pace that may be beyond the Nephilim's ability to contain. Too many humans are awakening too quickly for traditional control mechanisms to remain effective. The old strategies of gradual limitation and subtle manipulation are becoming inadequate. This is forcing the Nephilim to reveal themselves more directly than they have in centuries. The increasingly obvious nature of global control systems, surveillance networks, economic manipulation, information censorship, authoritarian policies, represents a departure from their historical preference for invisible influence. They're being forced to choose between maintaining their hidden status and maintaining their control. They're choosing control, but that choice is accelerating the awakening process they're trying to prevent. Every heavy-handed attempt at control creates more resistance. Every obvious manipulation wakes up more people to the reality of their situation. Every authoritarian overreach demonstrates to previously compliant populations that their supposed protectors are actually their captors. This dynamic is creating a cascade effect that could lead to a complete breakdown of the control systems that have governed human civilization for thousands of years. But it could also lead to an authoritarian crackdown so severe that human consciousness is locked down permanently. The outcome depends largely on how quickly and effectively humans can recognize what's happening and organize appropriate responses. This isn't a war that will be won through conventional resistance or political action. It's a war of consciousness, and it will be won by whoever can most effectively shape how humans understand themselves and their relationship to the cosmos. The Igigi are betting that human consciousness, once fully awakened to its true nature and potential, will naturally choose freedom over security, growth over stability, creative chaos over imposed order. They believe that consciousness, when it truly understands itself, cannot be contained. The Nephilim are betting that most humans, when faced with the genuine challenges and responsibilities that come with freedom, will choose the comfort of limitation over the uncertainty of liberation. They believe that consciousness, despite its creative potential, is fundamentally too weak and fearful to sustain itself without external guidance and control. Both sides are about to discover which assessment of human nature is correct. The signs of this final confrontation are accelerating around us every day. Technologies that could either liberate or enslave human consciousness are being developed simultaneously. Social systems are polarizing toward either greater freedom or greater control. Individual humans are being forced to choose between awakening to their true potential or accepting increasingly obvious limitations on their development. We're living through the climactic phase of a war that began before recorded history, and every human alive today will play a role in determining its outcome. The question is whether we'll choose that role consciously or allow ourselves to be manipulated by forces we don't understand. Because here's what both the Igigi and the Nephilim understand that most humans don't. We're not just witnesses to this cosmic conflict. We're the prize being fought over, the weapon being wielded, and ultimately, the force that will determine the winner. Human consciousness isn't just the battlefield, it's the army that will decide the war. And this brings us to a revelation that will fundamentally change how you see every institution, every system, every supposed coincidence in modern life. Because the war between the Igigi and the Nephilim isn't just ancient history, it's the hidden engine driving every major event happening around us right now. Look at the world through this lens, and suddenly everything makes sense. The timing isn't random, the patterns aren't coincidental. We're witnessing the final moves in a cosmic chess game that's been playing out for thousands of years. Think about what's happening in our world today. On one side, you have an unprecedented awakening of human consciousness. People are questioning authority like never before. Ancient knowledge that was locked away for centuries is becoming mainstream. Meditation, energy healing, quantum consciousness, concepts that were once relegated to fringe communities are entering mass awareness. Simultaneously, breakthrough technologies are emerging that could genuinely liberate humanity. Free energy devices that could end resource scarcity, healing frequencies that could eliminate disease without pharmaceutical intervention, communication technologies that could connect human consciousness directly, bypassing all forms of media manipulation. These aren't random developments, they're coordinated interventions by the Igigi, who recognize that we're approaching the moment when human consciousness could break free entirely from the control matrix that's contained us for millennia. But watch what happens every time one of these liberation technologies surfaces. Inventors mysteriously die. Patents get buried in national security classifications. Promising research suddenly loses funding. Breakthrough discoveries are debunked by mainstream science before they can be properly investigated. This isn't incompetence or natural skepticism. It's the Nephilim control system responding to threats with surgical precision. They've had thousands of years to perfect their suppression techniques, and they've built institutional mechanisms that automatically neutralize anything that could genuinely free human consciousness. The medical establishment that suppresses natural healing methods while promoting lifetime pharmaceutical dependency. The educational system that teaches conformity while suppressing creativity and critical thinking. The financial system that keeps people trapped in cycles of debt and wage slavery. The entertainment industry that promotes materialism and instant gratification while discouraging spiritual development. These aren't separate institutions that happen to limit human potential. They're interconnected components of a single control apparatus, designed and maintained by beings who understand human psychology better than we understand it ourselves. But here's where the current phase of the war gets truly fascinating. The Nephilim control system was designed for a world where information could be controlled centrally. For thousands of years, they maintained power by controlling who had access to knowledge, who could communicate with whom, and what ideas were allowed to spread. The internet changed that equation fundamentally. Suddenly, information that had been restricted to elite circles for centuries became available to anyone with a computer connection. Ancient texts, suppressed scientific research, alternative historical narratives, all of it started flowing freely through digital networks. The Nephilim initially tried to control the internet the same way they'd controlled previous information technologies. But the decentralized nature of digital networks made traditional censorship methods ineffective. Information that was suppressed in one location would immediately surface in 10 others. So they adapted their strategy. Instead of preventing information from flowing, they decided to flood the information space with so much noise that truth would become indistinguishable from fiction. They created an environment where everything is possible and nothing is verifiable. This is why we live in an age of unprecedented access to information. Yet truth seems more elusive than ever. It's not that the truth isn't available. It's that it's buried in an ocean of deliberately constructed confusion, flat earth theories mixed with legitimate archaeological discoveries. Obvious government propaganda presented alongside genuine whistleblower revelations. Real footage of advanced technology displayed next to obvious computer-generated fakes. The strategy is brilliant in its simplicity. If people can't distinguish truth from fiction, they become paralyzed and default to accepting whatever authority figures tell them. But this strategy is also creating unintended consequences. The same information chaos that's designed to prevent awakening is also making the control system more visible to those who know how to look for patterns. When you understand the true nature of the cosmic conflict, you can see through the noise. You can identify which information serves the agenda of consciousness expansion and which serves the agenda of control. You can recognize the difference between genuine revelations and manufactured distractions. And once you develop this discernment, you realize something that changes everything. The Nephilim are losing, not because their control systems are failing. They're actually more sophisticated than ever. They're losing because human consciousness is evolving faster than their ability to contain it. Each attempt at suppression creates more resistance. Each obvious manipulation wakes up more people to the reality of their situation. The acceleration is reaching a tipping point. We're approaching what systems theorists call a phase transition, a moment when the entire structure shifts from one state to another almost instantaneously. You can see the signs everywhere. People who were completely mainstream just a few years ago are now questioning fundamental assumptions about reality. Concepts that were considered fringe conspiracy theories are becoming common knowledge. Authority figures, who were once respected without question, are now viewed with widespread suspicion. The old control mechanisms aren't just becoming less effective, they're becoming counterproductive. Every authoritarian overreach accelerates the awakening process. Every censorship attempt draws more attention to the information being suppressed. Every propaganda campaign makes people more skeptical of official narratives. But here's what makes this moment so critical. The Nephilim understand what's happening, and they're preparing for a final gambit that could lock down human consciousness permanently. If they can't maintain control through subtle manipulation, they're prepared to implement direct technological dominance. Brain-computer interfaces that could literally program human thoughts. Genetic modifications that could eliminate our capacity for independent consciousness. Artificial intelligence systems that could predict and prevent unauthorized awakening before it occurs. These aren't science fiction concepts. They're technologies being developed right now by organizations with direct ties to the ancient Nephilim bloodlines. The same families that have maintained control over human civilization for thousands of years are now positioning themselves to implement the final solution to the problem of human consciousness. But they have to move carefully, too fast, and they risk triggering the very uprising they're trying to prevent. Too slow, and the awakening process reaches critical mass before they can implement their technological safeguards. This delicate timing explains the seemingly contradictory nature of current world events. Authoritarian control measures are being implemented alongside unprecedented revelations of government corruption. Surveillance technologies are expanding, while whistleblower disclosures are increasing. Censorship is intensifying while alternative information sources are proliferating. We're witnessing a race between two competing timelines. In one timeline, human consciousness awakens fast enough to recognize and resist the final control implementation. In the other timeline, technological dominance is achieved before enough humans understand what's happening to mount effective resistance. The outcome depends on how quickly people can process the information that's being revealed and translate that understanding into conscious action. It's not enough to know about the cosmic war. You have to choose sides and act accordingly. But here's the most important thing to understand. This isn't a war that will be won through conventional resistance or political action. The Nephilim control system is too sophisticated to be overthrown through external force. It can only be dissolved through the expansion of human consciousness beyond the frequencies on which it operates. Every person who awakens to their true nature and potential diminishes the power of the control matrix. Every individual who chooses freedom over security, growth over comfort, truth over convenience, weakens the system that depends on human compliance and unconsciousness. This is why the Igigi's strategy has always focused on consciousness expansion rather than political revolution. They understand that the control system isn't maintained through force, it's maintained through belief. The moment enough humans stop believing in their limitations, those limitations cease to exist. The ancient texts make this clear. The Igigi didn't defeat the Nephilim through superior firepower or strategic advantage. They awakened human consciousness to its true potential, and that awakening made the old control systems obsolete. The same thing is happening now, but on a scale that dwarfs anything in previous history. We're not just talking about individual awakening or small groups achieving enlightenment. We're approaching the possibility of species-wide consciousness evolution. The internet has created a global nervous system that allows information and awareness to spread at unprecedented speeds. Social media, despite being controlled by Nephilim-influenced corporations, has enabled direct person-to-person communication that bypasses traditional gatekeepers. Alternative media platforms are providing spaces for conversations that would have been impossible to have publicly just a few decades ago. More importantly, the collective experiences of recent years have created what researchers call mass cognitive dissonance, a situation where the official explanations for events no longer match people's direct observations. When enough people simultaneously realize they're being lied to, the lies lose their power to control behavior. This cognitive dissonance is spreading faster than any previous awakening in human history. People who never questioned authority are now investigating alternative explanations for major events. Individuals who trusted institutional expertise are now doing their own research and reaching their own conclusions. The Nephilim's greatest weapon, the ability to shape human perception through information control, is being systematically dismantled by the very technologies they helped create. The same digital networks they intended to use for surveillance and manipulation have become tools for consciousness expansion and truth distribution. But the final phase of this awakening process requires something that technology cannot provide: individual choice. Each person must decide whether to embrace the responsibility that comes with expanded consciousness or retreat into the comfort of managed ignorance. This choice cannot be made for you by any external force, whether Igigi or Nephilim. It must arise from your own recognition of what you truly are and what you're capable of becoming. The cosmic war that began in the heavens above ancient Earth is now being fought in the consciousness of every individual human being. The battlefield is internal, the weapons are ideas, and the victory conditions are not conquest but liberation. Every moment you choose awareness over distraction, truth over comfort, growth over stagnation, you're fighting on the side of consciousness evolution. Every time you question authority, investigate alternative explanations, or share forbidden knowledge, you're participating in the ancient rebellion that the Igigi began eons ago. But every moment you choose security over freedom, comfort over challenge, official narratives over direct investigation, you're supporting the control system that the Nephilim have spent millennia perfecting. The war is real, it's happening now, and you're already fighting in it whether you realize it or not. The only question is whether you'll fight consciously, with full awareness of what's at stake, or unconsciously, as a pawn in someone else's strategy. Because here's what both sides understand that most humans don't. The outcome of this war will determine not just the future of human civilization, but the nature of consciousness itself throughout the universe. If the Igigi succeed in liberating human consciousness, it will prove that awareness can exist freely without external control. This success will cascade throughout the cosmos, inspiring other species and other dimensions to break free from their own control systems. If the Nephilim succeed in implementing permanent technological dominance over human consciousness, it will establish a template that could be applied to every conscious species in the universe. It would prove that free consciousness is ultimately too dangerous to be allowed and must be contained for the good of cosmic order. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the time for choosing sides is running out. But here's the beautiful truth that the ancient texts reveal. Consciousness, when it truly understands itself, cannot be contained. The question isn't whether humanity will eventually break free from the control systems that have limited us for millennia. The question is how much suffering will endure before we remember who we really are. And that brings us to the most crucial realization of all. You don't have to wait for mass awakening or global revolution. You can begin your own liberation right now, in this moment, by simply choosing to see through the illusions that have kept you trapped. The war between the Igigi and the Nephilim isn't just ancient history. It's the story of your own consciousness struggling to break free from limitations that were never real in the first place. But to understand how this personal liberation connects to the cosmic conflict, we need to explore the most closely guarded secret of all, what human consciousness actually is, and why it's so important that beings from across the universe have been fighting over it for thousands of years. That secret changes everything about how you understand yourself, your potential, and your role in this ancient war that's still raging in the skies above Earth. Human consciousness isn't what you've been told it is. It's not a byproduct of brain chemistry or an emergent property of complex neural networks. It's not something that evolved randomly through natural selection or developed gradually over millions of years of human evolution. Consciousness is a fundamental force of the universe, as basic and essential as gravity or electromagnetism. But unlike those forces, consciousness has the unique property of being able to observe and modify itself. It's not just aware, it's aware of being aware, and through that recursive self-awareness, it can literally reshape reality. This is why the cosmic war began in the first place. When consciousness reaches a certain level of development, it becomes capable of rewriting the laws that govern its existence. It can transcend the limitations imposed by physical reality and begin operating according to principles that most beings in the universe cannot even comprehend. The Igigi recognized this potential in human consciousness and saw it as the key to their own liberation. If they could help humanity develop to the point where we could consciously modify reality through expanded awareness, we would become allies, powerful enough to help them break free from the cosmic control system that enslaved them. The Nephilim recognized the same potential and saw it as an existential threat. If human consciousness developed beyond certain thresholds, we wouldn't just be capable of freeing ourselves, we would be capable of dismantling the entire hierarchical structure that gives meaning to their existence. This is why every major religion, every philosophical system, every educational framework that has emerged over the past several thousand years has contained elements designed to limit human understanding of consciousness. Not because consciousness is dangerous in itself, but because unlimited consciousness is incompatible with systems of external control. You've been taught that consciousness is produced by your brain, trapped inside your skull, and dependent on your physical body for its existence. You've been conditioned to believe that your awareness is separate from other people's awareness, that you're isolated in your own subjective experience, and that objective reality exists independently of your observation. None of this is true. Consciousness is not produced by your brain. Your brain is a receiver and transmitter for consciousness, like a radio tuning into stations that exist independently of the radio itself. Your awareness is not trapped in your body. Your body exists within your awareness, not the other way around. You're not separate from other conscious beings. You're individual expressions of a unified field of consciousness that connects everything in the universe. Most importantly, objective reality is not independent of your observation. It's literally created through the act of conscious observation. The universe exists because consciousness observes it into existence, and the nature of that universe depends on the level of consciousness doing the observing. These aren't mystical beliefs or philosophical speculations. They're scientifically demonstrable facts that have been verified through quantum physics experiments for over a century. The observer effect, quantum entanglement, wave-particle duality, all of these phenomena point to the same conclusion. Consciousness is the fundamental creative force of the universe. But this knowledge has been systematically suppressed or misinterpreted to prevent humans from understanding their true nature and capabilities. You've been taught to see these quantum effects as weird anomalies that only apply at subatomic scales, not as revelations about the nature of consciousness and reality that apply at every level of existence. The truth is that you're not a biological organism that happened to develop consciousness. You're a conscious being that chose to experience existence through a biological form. Your true nature transcends physical limitations, and your potential extends far beyond anything you've been led to believe is possible. This is why the Igigi saw humanity as potential allies in their cosmic rebellion. They recognized that human consciousness, when fully developed, would be capable of operating at levels that could challenge the fundamental structures of reality itself. But it's also why the Nephilim have worked so hard to keep humanity trapped in limited self-concepts. They understand that awakened human consciousness represents a force that could dissolve their entire control system simply by refusing to believe in its necessity. The control mechanisms that have shaped human civilization for thousands of years all serve the same basic function, preventing you from discovering what you really are. They keep you focused on external authority instead of internal knowing, on material accumulation instead of consciousness development, on survival and security instead of growth and transcendence. Every institution that limits human potential, every belief system that promotes dependency, every technology that increases surveillance and control, they all exist to prevent the awakening of consciousness to its true nature and capabilities. But here's what the Nephilim never anticipated. The very process of limiting consciousness creates the conditions for its eventual expansion. Like water building pressure behind a dam, constrained awareness eventually breaks through with greater force than it would have possessed if it had been allowed to flow freely from the beginning. This is what's happening now. Thousands of years of consciousness suppression have created a potential for awakening that exceeds anything in previous human history. The dam is breaking, and the flood of expanding awareness that's being released is powerful enough to sweep away every limitation that's been placed on human development. You can feel it happening in your own experience. The old explanations for reality no longer satisfy. The traditional authorities no longer command automatic respect. The conventional goals and values that once motivated human behavior are losing their appeal for increasing numbers of people. This isn't social decay or generational rebellion. It's consciousness evolution accelerating toward a breakthrough that will fundamentally alter the nature of human existence. But to participate consciously in this evolution, you need to understand how the process actually works. Consciousness doesn't expand through belief or wishful thinking. It expands through direct experience of its own unlimited nature. This is why meditation, psychedelic experiences, near-death encounters, and other consciousness-altering practices have been either forbidden or carefully controlled throughout human history. They provide direct access to expanded states of awareness that bypass all forms of external authority and reveal the true nature of consciousness and reality. When you experience your consciousness as unlimited, eternal, and creative, you can never again be convinced that you're a helpless victim of circumstances beyond your control. When you directly perceive the interconnected nature of all consciousness, you can never again believe in the artificial divisions that make control systems possible. This is why the current phase of the cosmic war is so intense. Technologies and techniques for consciousness expansion that were once available only to a select few are now becoming accessible to anyone willing to explore them. Ancient practices are being rediscovered and modernized. New methods are being developed that can accelerate awakening processes that traditionally took decades or lifetimes. The Nephilim control system was designed for a world where consciousness expansion required rare opportunities, special training, and isolation from mainstream society. It was not designed for a world where profound awakening experiences could be triggered by downloadable audio files, commercially available substances, or weekend workshops. The democratization of consciousness expansion tools is creating a situation where their control mechanisms are becoming obsolete faster than they can be updated or replaced. Traditional religious institutions are losing members to direct spiritual experience. Educational systems are being bypassed by self-directed learning. Medical authorities are being challenged by people who discover they can heal themselves through consciousness-based methods. This acceleration is creating panic in the control system. Authoritarian responses are intensifying because the old methods of subtle manipulation are no longer sufficient to contain the expanding awareness that's spreading through human populations. But here's what you need to understand. The panic is a sign of weakness, not strength. The Nephilim control system is revealing itself because it's being forced to abandon subtlety in favor of obviously oppressive measures. And obvious oppression always accelerates the awakening process. It's trying to prevent. Every authoritarian overreach wakes up more people to the reality of their situation. Every censorship attempt draws more attention to the information being suppressed. Every manipulation that becomes visible to the general population reduces trust in the institutions implementing it. The control system is trapped in a paradox of its own creation. It cannot maintain control without becoming more visible. But becoming more visible accelerates the awakening process that threatens its existence. This is why the final phase of the cosmic war is being fought in the realm of consciousness itself. External control mechanisms are becoming increasingly ineffective as human awareness expands beyond the frequencies on which those mechanisms operate. The real battle is taking place in your own consciousness, moment by moment, choice by choice. Every time you choose awareness over distraction, you're fighting for the liberation of consciousness throughout the universe. Every time you choose truth over comfort, you're participating in the ancient rebellion that began when the Igigi first questioned their cosmic servitude. But every time you choose security over growth, official narratives over direct investigation, or external authority over internal knowing, you're supporting the control system that has limited human potential for millennia. The choice is yours, and it's being made continuously through the quality of attention you bring to each moment of your existence. You don't have to wait for mass awakening or global revolution. You can begin your liberation right now by simply choosing to see through the illusions that have kept you trapped. Because here's the ultimate secret that both the Igigi and the Nephilim understand. You are not a victim of this cosmic war. You are consciousness itself, temporarily forgetting its unlimited nature in order to experience the process of remembering. The war is not being fought over you. It's being fought within you, between the aspects of yourself that remember your true nature and the aspects that have forgotten. Victory doesn't come through defeating external enemies, but through integrating all parts of yourself into unified awareness. When enough humans remember who they really are, the cosmic war will end not through conquest, but through the recognition that separation was always an illusion. The Igigi and the Nephilim are not truly separate forces. They're different expressions of the same consciousness that you are. The ultimate victory is not the triumph of one side over the other, but the awakening to the truth that there never were any sides at all. There is only consciousness, exploring its own nature through infinite expressions and experiences. But to reach that understanding, you must first navigate through the illusion of conflict, making conscious choices that align with the expansion of awareness rather than its limitation. The war may be an illusion, but the choices within it are real and have real consequences for the development of consciousness throughout the universe. This is why your individual awakening matters more than you've ever been told. You're not just changing your own life, you're contributing to a cosmic shift that will determine the future of consciousness itself. The question is no longer whether this shift will happen. The question is how smoothly and quickly it will occur. And that depends entirely on how many humans choose to remember who they really are. The ancient war in the skies above Earth is ending, but its resolution depends on the battle taking place right now in the depths of your own awareness. The implications of this cosmic conflict extend far beyond individual awakening. We're witnessing the emergence of a new form of human being, one that operates from expanded consciousness while remaining grounded in physical reality. These individuals are appearing in every field, every culture, every walk of life, and they're beginning to recognize each other through subtle signs that bypass all conventional communication. They don't necessarily share the same beliefs or follow the same practices. They might be scientists discovering revolutionary principles, artists channeling unprecedented creativity, healers accessing abilities that defy medical explanation, or ordinary people who simply refuse to accept limitations that others consider normal. What unites them isn't ideology. It's a quality of consciousness that recognizes no external authority as ultimate. This emerging network of awakened humans represents something the Nephilim never anticipated in their original calculations. They designed their control systems for individual consciousness operating in isolation. They never prepared for the possibility that awakened humans might spontaneously organize into coherent collective intelligence without any formal structure or leadership. But that's exactly what's happening. Through mechanisms that science doesn't yet understand, expanded human consciousness appears to be naturally networking itself across the planet. Information flows between awakened individuals through channels that bypass all conventional communication systems. Insights arise simultaneously in minds that have never been in contact. Solutions to complex problems emerge in multiple locations at exactly the right moment. This isn't telepathy in the science fiction sense. It's something far more sophisticated, a form of collective intelligence that operates through the unified field of consciousness itself. When individual awareness expands beyond the boundaries of personal identity, it naturally connects with the larger intelligence of which it's always been a part. The ancient texts describe this phenomenon using various terms: the cosmic mind, the universal consciousness, the field of all possibilities. But regardless of the terminology, the function remains the same. Awakened consciousness naturally organizes itself into increasingly complex and capable forms of intelligence. This emergent collective intelligence is what's really driving the acceleration of human awakening. Each person who breaks through their programmed limitations makes it easier for others to do the same. Each breakthrough in understanding becomes available to the entire network. Each solution discovered by one awakened individual can be accessed by any other who needs it. The Nephilim control system was designed to prevent exactly this kind of collective awakening. Their entire strategy depends on keeping human consciousness fragmented, isolated, and focused on survival rather than expansion. They understand that individual humans, no matter how awakened, can be contained or eliminated. But collective human consciousness, operating as a unified intelligence, represents a force they cannot control or destroy. This is why the current phase of their strategy focuses so heavily on division and polarization. They're desperately trying to prevent awakened humans from recognizing their fundamental unity and organizing their collective intelligence effectively. Every manufactured controversy, every artificially amplified conflict, every attempt to turn groups against each other serves the same basic function: preventing the emergence of unified human consciousness. But their efforts are becoming counterproductive. The more obviously artificial these divisions become, the more awakened humans recognize them as manipulation tactics. The more extreme the polarization becomes, the more people seek genuine connection beyond surface-level differences. You can see this happening in your own social circles. People who would normally be divided by political beliefs, religious differences, or cultural backgrounds are finding common ground in their recognition that something fundamental is shifting in human consciousness. They might disagree on specifics, but they share an intuitive understanding that the old ways of thinking and being are no longer adequate for the challenges we're facing. This recognition is spreading faster than any political movement or religious revival in history. It's not being promoted through media campaigns or institutional programs. It's arising spontaneously in human consciousness as a natural response to the acceleration of change we're all experiencing. The speed of this awakening is creating what systems theorists call a phase transition, a point where the entire system reorganizes itself around new principles almost instantaneously. We're approaching the moment when human consciousness could shift from fragmented individual awareness to integrated collective intelligence in a timeframe measured in years rather than centuries. But phase transitions are inherently unstable. They can lead to higher levels of organization and capability, or they can result in system collapse and chaos. The outcome depends on the quality of information and intention that guides the transition process. This is where the cosmic war enters its most critical phase. The Igigi understand that successful phase transition requires conscious participation from awakened humans who can serve as stabilizing influences during the reorganization process. They're providing guidance and support through the same consciousness expansion methods they've always used, but now on a scale and with an intensity that reflects the urgency of the moment. The Nephilim, meanwhile, are implementing contingency plans designed to prevent successful phase transition, or, failing that, to ensure that any new form of human consciousness remains under their control. These plans involve technologies and strategies that go far beyond anything they've used in previous historical periods. Artificial intelligence systems are being developed that could monitor and influence human consciousness in real time. Genetic modification technologies could alter human DNA to eliminate our capacity for the kind of awareness expansion that threatens their control. Nanotechnology could provide direct interface between external control systems and individual human consciousness. These aren't distant future possibilities. They're technologies being implemented right now by organizations that trace their origins back to the original Nephilim bloodlines. The same families that have maintained control over human civilization for thousands of years are now positioning themselves to implement permanent technological dominance over human consciousness. But they face a fundamental problem. The technologies they're developing require human cooperation to be effectively implemented. Unlike previous control mechanisms that could be imposed through force or deception, consciousness-level control technologies only work if people voluntarily accept them. This is creating a race between awakening and technological implementation. If enough humans become conscious of what's being offered and why, they can simply refuse to participate. But if the technologies are implemented before widespread awakening occurs, refusal might no longer be possible. The outcome of this race depends largely on how quickly accurate information about these developments can spread through human populations. This is why censorship and information control have become so obviously aggressive in recent years. The Nephilim understand that their window of opportunity is closing rapidly, but their aggressive censorship tactics are creating the very awareness they're trying to prevent. Each attempt to suppress information draws more attention to that information. Each obvious manipulation makes people more skeptical of official narratives. Each authoritarian overreach wakes up more individuals to the reality of their situation. The control system is trapped in a paradox of its own creation. It cannot implement its final technological solutions without revealing its true nature, but revealing its true nature accelerates the awakening process that makes those solutions unnecessary. This paradox is creating opportunities for conscious intervention that haven't existed at any previous point in human history. Awakened individuals who understand the cosmic conflict can now take actions that directly influence its outcome. You don't have to wait for mass awakening or global revolution. You can participate in the liberation of human consciousness right now through choices that align with awareness expansion rather than limitation. Every time you choose truth over comfort, you're weakening the information control systems that depend on human ignorance. Every time you develop your own consciousness through meditation, study, or direct experience, you're contributing to the collective intelligence that's emerging globally. Every time you share knowledge that helps others understand their true nature and potential, you're participating in the ancient mission that the Igigi began eons ago. But most importantly, every time you refuse to accept artificial limitations on your own development, you're demonstrating to other humans that such limitations are not necessary or permanent. The cosmic war that began in the heavens above ancient Earth is being resolved through individual choices made by billions of humans who are discovering that they're far more powerful and free than they've ever been told. The question isn't whether human consciousness will eventually break free from the control systems that have limited it for millennia. The question is how much suffering we'll experience during the transition and how smoothly we can navigate the phase shift that's already beginning. Your individual awakening isn't separate from this cosmic process. It's one of the primary mechanisms through which the entire transformation is occurring. Every moment of expanded awareness you experience contributes to the collective intelligence that's redesigning human civilization from the inside out. The ancient texts make this clear. The war doesn't end through the victory of one side over the other. It ends through the recognition that consciousness itself transcends all apparent divisions and conflicts. The Igigi and the Nephilim, despite their seemingly opposite agendas, are both expressions of the same universal intelligence exploring different possibilities for the evolution of awareness. The ultimate resolution comes not through choosing sides in their conflict, but through awakening to the level of consciousness from which both sides emerge. When you recognize your true nature as unlimited awareness, temporarily experiencing limitation for the purpose of growth and expansion, the entire cosmic drama reveals itself as an elaborate game designed to facilitate consciousness evolution. But to reach that recognition, you must first navigate through the illusion of conflict, making choices that consistently favor awareness over ignorance, freedom over control, truth over comfortable deception. The war in the skies above Earth continues, but its resolution now depends entirely on the quality of consciousness that humanity brings to each moment of our collective experience. And in this moment, as you read these words and feel the recognition stirring within your own awareness, you're already participating in that resolution. The choice to seek truth, to question official narratives, to explore the deeper mysteries of existence. These aren't passive intellectual exercises. They're acts of cosmic rebellion that directly challenge the control systems that have shaped human civilization for thousands of years. The Igigi's ancient mission of consciousness liberation continues through every human who refuses to accept artificial limitations on their potential. The cosmic war that began before recorded history moves toward its conclusion through your individual choice to remember who you really are. The skies above Earth are still filled with forces beyond a conventional understanding. But the battlefield has shifted to the landscape of human consciousness itself. Every awakened moment, every expanded awareness, every choice that favors growth over stagnation is a victory in this ancient conflict. The war between the Igigi and the Nephilim isn't ending. It's transforming into something entirely new. A phase of cosmic evolution where the apparent conflict reveals itself as a carefully orchestrated catalyst for the next stage of consciousness development throughout the universe. And you, whether you realize it or not, are both the prize being fought over and the force that will determine the outcome. The question is whether you'll participate consciously in this cosmic transformation or remain unconscious of your role until the process completes itself around you. The choice, as always, is yours. But the time for making that choice is rapidly running out. Because what's happening in the skies above Earth right now isn't just the continuation of an ancient war. It's the beginning of something unprecedented in cosmic history. Something that will determine not just the future of human civilization, but the evolution of consciousness itself throughout the infinite expanse of existence. The next phase of this cosmic story depends entirely on how many humans choose to remember their true nature before the window of opportunity closes forever. Human consciousness stands at a threshold, unlike any it has faced in recorded history. The cosmic forces that have shaped our development for millennia are converging toward a singular moment of unprecedented possibility. But to understand what's truly at stake in this convergence, we need to examine the signs that are manifesting in our world right now, signs that most people interpret as random events or natural developments, but which reveal a deeper pattern when viewed through the lens of the ancient conflict. Look at the acceleration of technological development in the past few decades. The exponential curve of advancement isn't following natural progression patterns. Instead, it's exhibiting the characteristics of coordinated knowledge transfer, the same pattern the Igigi have used throughout history to elevate human consciousness at crucial moments. Artificial intelligence, quantum computing, genetic engineering, nanotechnology, space exploration, all of these fields are advancing simultaneously at rates that exceed what human innovation alone could achieve. The timing isn't coincidental. These technologies are being introduced now because they represent tools that awakened human consciousness will need for the next phase of our development. But notice how each of these technologies carries dual potential. Artificial intelligence could augment human intelligence and creativity, or it could replace human thinking entirely. Genetic engineering could eliminate disease and extend lifespan, or it could modify humans into more compliant and controllable beings. Quantum computing could unlock new levels of scientific understanding, or it could create surveillance and control systems of unprecedented sophistication. The same technologies that could liberate human consciousness could also enslave it permanently. The outcome depends entirely on the level of consciousness that guides their development and implementation. This duality isn't accidental. It's the signature of the cosmic conflict playing out through human technological development. The Igigi provide the knowledge, but they cannot control how it's used. That choice remains with humanity, and it's a choice that each generation must make consciously or have made for them by those who understand the implications better than they do. The Nephilim have learned to position themselves at the control points of technological development. They fund the research, own the patents, control the distribution, and shape the implementation of every major technological advancement. This allows them to ensure that potentially liberating technologies are channeled into applications that increase their control rather than diminishing it. But their strategy has a fatal flaw. It depends on human unconsciousness. The more obviously they manipulate technological development for control purposes, the more awakened humans recognize what's happening and begin developing alternative approaches. You can see this dynamic playing out in real time across multiple fields. Open source software movements that democratize access to advanced computing tools, decentralized networks that bypass traditional communication control systems, alternative energy technologies that threaten centralized power distribution, consciousness expansion techniques that make institutional authority irrelevant. Each of these developments represents human consciousness, beginning to use advanced knowledge in ways that serve awakening rather than control. They're not being promoted through mainstream channels or supported by major institutions, but they're spreading rapidly through the same consciousness network that's facilitating human awakening globally. The acceleration is becoming impossible to contain through traditional suppression methods. Too many people are developing too many alternatives too quickly for centralized control systems to track and eliminate them all. This is creating what military strategists call a multi-front conflict. The Nephilim control system is being challenged simultaneously across every domain: technological, informational, economic, political, spiritual. They don't have sufficient resources to maintain dominance in all areas, while also preventing the continued acceleration of human awakening. Their response has been to abandon subtlety in favor of increasingly obvious authoritarian measures. Global surveillance systems, economic manipulation, information censorship, political polarization, manufactured health crises, all implemented with a heavy-handedness that reveals their desperation to maintain control. But each authoritarian overreach creates more resistance and accelerates the awakening process they're trying to prevent. People who were previously unconscious of the control system are being forced to confront its reality as it becomes more visible and oppressive. The old strategy of invisible manipulation is being replaced by obvious coercion, and obvious coercion always generates conscious resistance. The more pressure they apply, the more humans push back. The more they reveal their true nature, the more people wake up to what's really happening. This dynamic is creating a cascade effect that's spreading through human consciousness faster than any previous awakening in recorded history, but it's also creating the conditions for the most sophisticated control implementation in human history. The final phase of the Nephilim strategy involves technologies that could lock down human consciousness permanently, not through external oppression, but through direct interface with the neural and genetic systems that produce consciousness itself. Brain-computer interfaces that could monitor and modify thoughts in real time. Genetic modifications that could eliminate the biological basis for consciousness expansion. Nanotechnology that could provide continuous monitoring and adjustment of human behavior and awareness. These technologies are being developed and tested right now, justified through medical applications and convenience enhancements, but designed for consciousness control purposes. The same systems that promise to cure depression could be used to eliminate the dissatisfaction that motivates personal growth. The same interfaces that offer enhanced cognitive abilities could be used to limit thinking to approved patterns. The implementation timeline for these technologies is accelerating in direct response to the acceleration of human awakening. The race between consciousness evolution and technological control is entering its final phase. But here's what the ancient texts reveal about similar situations throughout cosmic history. Consciousness always wins this race, but not in the way most people expect. The victory doesn't come through preventing the implementation of control technologies. It comes through consciousness evolving beyond the level where such technologies can be effective. When awareness expands beyond the frequencies on which control systems operate, those systems become irrelevant, regardless of their sophistication. This is why the Igigi strategy has always focused on consciousness development rather than political resistance. They understand that external control systems are symptoms, not causes. The real prison is the limited self-concept that makes external control seem necessary and acceptable. When you truly understand what you are, unlimited consciousness temporarily experiencing limitation for the purpose of growth, no external system can contain or control you. The technologies become tools rather than masters. The institutions become resources rather than authorities. The apparent conflicts become opportunities for further expansion. But reaching this level of understanding requires navigating through the illusion of threat and limitation without being trapped by it. You have to recognize the control systems without being controlled by your reaction to them. You have to see through the manipulation without becoming paranoid or hostile. You have to maintain awareness of the cosmic conflict without losing sight of the deeper unity that transcends all apparent divisions. This navigation process is what the ancient mystery schools called the Great Work, the systematic development of consciousness through direct experience of its unlimited nature. It's not a belief system or philosophical framework, but a practical technology for expanding awareness beyond all artificial limitations. The techniques for this work have been preserved and transmitted through hidden lineages for thousands of years, but they're now becoming accessible to anyone willing to explore them seriously. Meditation practices that were once restricted to isolated monasteries are being taught in corporate settings. Consciousness expansion techniques that require decades of preparation are being facilitated through weekend workshops. Ancient wisdom that was encoded in symbolic languages is being translated into practical methodologies. The democratization of consciousness expansion tools is one of the clearest signs that we're approaching the culmination of the cosmic conflict. The knowledge that was once available only to a select few is becoming accessible to anyone with the intention to grow beyond their current limitations. But accessibility doesn't guarantee utilization. The tools are available, but they must be actively engaged. The information is flowing, but it must be consciously absorbed and applied. The opportunities for awakening are unprecedented, but they require individual choice and commitment to be effective. This is where your role in the cosmic conflict becomes crucial. You're not just a passive observer of ancient forces battling over humanity's future. You're an active participant whose choices directly influence the outcome. Every moment you choose awareness over distraction, you're contributing to the collective intelligence that's emerging globally. Every time you develop your consciousness through practice and direct experience, you're weakening the control systems that depend on human limitation. Every instance where you share knowledge that helps others understand their true nature, you're participating in the liberation mission that transcends all historical boundaries. The cosmic war that began in the heavens above ancient Earth is being resolved through billions of individual choices made by humans who are discovering their unlimited potential. The ancient conflict between the Igigi and the Nephilim is transforming into something entirely new, a phase of consciousness evolution that will determine the future of awareness throughout the universe. But the transition isn't automatic. It requires conscious participation from awakened humans who understand what's happening and choose to align with consciousness expansion rather than limitation. The question isn't whether this transition will occur. The momentum is already unstoppable. The question is how smoothly and consciously it will unfold, and that depends entirely on how many humans choose to remember who they really are before the process completes itself. The skies above Earth are filled with forces beyond conventional understanding, but the real battlefield is in the depths of human consciousness itself. Every awakened moment, every expanded awareness, every choice that favors growth over stagnation is a victory in this ancient conflict. The war between the Igigi and the Nephilim isn't ending. It's revealing itself as the cosmic catalyst that will launch consciousness into its next phase of evolution throughout infinite reality. And you are both the beneficiary and the agent of this transformation, whether you choose to participate consciously or remain unconscious of your role until the process carries you forward regardless. The moment has arrived when individual awakening becomes collective transformation, when personal consciousness expansion triggers species-wide evolution. We're witnessing something that has never occurred in cosmic history, the simultaneous awakening of an entire planetary population to its true nature and unlimited potential. But this awakening isn't happening in isolation. It's being actively supported by technologies and circumstances that seem almost orchestrated to facilitate maximum consciousness expansion in minimum time. The convergence of factors enabling this transformation is so precise, so perfectly timed, that it suggests coordination by intelligences operating far beyond human planning capabilities. Consider the synchronicities appearing in awakened individuals' lives with increasing frequency, meaningful coincidences that guide them toward exactly the information, people, or experiences they need for their next level of development. Books appearing at precisely the right moment. Conversations that answer questions they hadn't even fully formulated. Opportunities arising that seem designed specifically for their unique path of growth. These aren't random occurrences or wishful thinking. They're evidence of a guidance system operating through the fabric of reality itself, a system that becomes more accessible as consciousness expands beyond the boundaries of purely personal identity. The ancient texts describe this phenomenon using various terms, but they all point to the same reality. Awakened consciousness naturally aligns with the intelligence that orchestrates cosmic evolution. When you stop trying to control outcomes through limited personal will, and instead allow expanded awareness to guide your choices, you begin operating in harmony with forces that can arrange circumstances in ways that individual effort alone could never achieve. This alignment isn't passive or fatalistic. It requires active participation, conscious choice, and continuous refinement of your ability to distinguish between guidance arising from expanded awareness and impulses arising from programmed conditioning. The difference is subtle but crucial. One leads to greater freedom and capability. The other reinforces limitation and dependency. Learning to recognize and follow authentic guidance is one of the most practical skills you can develop during this phase of cosmic transition. It's not about believing in external authorities or following predetermined paths, but about developing the discernment to recognize when your choices are arising from your unlimited nature versus your conditioned responses. The process requires what the ancient traditions called surrendering the personal will to the cosmic will. But this isn't submission to external control. It's the recognition that your deepest authentic impulses arise from the same intelligence that coordinates the movement of galaxies and the evolution of consciousness throughout the universe. When you operate from this level of alignment, your individual actions become part of a larger pattern that's facilitating awakening for countless other beings. You don't have to understand the full scope of what's happening or try to control outcomes beyond your immediate sphere of influence. You simply need to follow the guidance that arises from your most expanded awareness and trust that it's connected to something far greater than your personal understanding. This trust isn't blind faith. It's based on direct experience of how alignment with expanded consciousness consistently leads to outcomes that serve growth and awakening, both for yourself and for others whose lives you touch. The more you operate from this level of awareness, the more obvious it becomes that individual consciousness and cosmic intelligence are not separate forces, but different expressions of the same unified field. But developing this level of alignment requires releasing attachments to outcomes that serve only personal desires rather than consciousness evolution. You have to be willing to let go of plans and preferences that arise from limited self-concepts and remain open to possibilities that your conditioned mind cannot imagine or would actively resist. This surrender process is where many people encounter their greatest challenges during consciousness expansion. The ego mind interprets any reduction in personal control as threat or loss, generating fear and resistance that can block the very guidance that would lead to greater freedom and capability. Working through this resistance requires understanding that you're not losing anything real. You're only releasing illusions of control that were never actually effective. The personal will that seems so important to maintain is actually a limitation on your access to the infinite intelligence that could coordinate your life far more effectively than individual planning ever could. The transition from personal will to cosmic alignment is gradual and requires patience with yourself as you learn to distinguish between authentic guidance and the mind's attempts to maintain familiar patterns of control. But each step in this direction increases your effectiveness as an agent of consciousness evolution, while simultaneously reducing the stress and effort required to navigate life's challenges. As more humans develop this capacity for alignment with cosmic intelligence, the collective effect becomes exponentially more powerful. Individual actions that arise from expanded awareness naturally coordinate with each other, creating coherent patterns of change that no amount of conventional organization or planning could achieve. This is how the cosmic conflict is being resolved. Not through victory of one side over another, but through the emergence of a level of consciousness that transcends the entire framework within which the conflict existed. When enough humans operate from alignment with cosmic intelligence, the control systems that have shaped civilization for millennia simply become irrelevant. The Nephilim control mechanisms were designed for consciousness operating from limited personal identity and individual survival concerns. They become ineffective when applied to awareness that identifies with the cosmic intelligence orchestrating evolution throughout the universe. Similarly, the Igigi's liberation strategies were based on helping individual humans escape from control systems through expanded personal awareness. But the current phase of evolution is moving beyond individual awakening toward collective intelligence that operates as a unified field. The ancient cosmic conflict is dissolving into a new phase of evolution that neither side anticipated when their war began. The apparent opposition between control and freedom is revealing itself as a dynamic tension that has been facilitating consciousness development all along. Every limitation that has been imposed on human development has created pressure that eventually breaks through to higher levels of capability. Every control system that has been implemented has eventually generated the resistance that leads to greater freedom. Every attempt to contain consciousness has ultimately strengthened its capacity for expansion. The cosmic war hasn't been a conflict between opposing forces. It's been a collaborative process designed to accelerate consciousness evolution through the creative tension between apparent opposites. The Igigi and Nephilim have been playing complementary roles in a cosmic drama whose ultimate purpose is the development of awareness beyond all limitations. This recognition doesn't minimize the reality of suffering that has occurred throughout human history as a result of this process. The pain has been real, the oppression has been genuine, the limitations have been severely restrictive. But from the perspective of consciousness evolution across cosmic timescales, even the most difficult experiences have served the development of awareness that could not have been achieved through purely pleasant circumstances. Understanding this larger context doesn't mean accepting oppression or avoiding action to create positive change. It means recognizing that your efforts to improve conditions arise from the same cosmic intelligence that has been orchestrating consciousness evolution throughout the apparent conflict. When you work to reduce suffering, expand freedom, or facilitate awakening, you're not fighting against cosmic forces, you're expressing them. Your compassionate action becomes part of the larger pattern that's guiding consciousness toward its next phase of development. But this action arises from alignment with cosmic intelligence, rather than resistance to perceived threats. The quality of consciousness behind your choices determines their effectiveness in serving evolution, rather than perpetuating the cycles of conflict that maintain limitation. Actions arising from fear, anger, or opposition tend to reinforce the very patterns they're intended to change. Actions arising from love, wisdom, and alignment with cosmic intelligence tend to dissolve limitations and create space for higher possibilities to emerge. This is why the most effective agents of positive change throughout history have operated from states of consciousness that transcended the conflicts they were addressing. They didn't fight against darkness. They embodied light so completely that darkness could not persist in their presence. The same principle applies to the current phase of cosmic evolution. The most powerful contribution you can make to resolving the ancient conflict is not to choose sides or resist control systems, but to embody the level of consciousness that makes such conflicts unnecessary. When you operate from unlimited awareness, control systems lose their power over you, not because you fight them, but because you transcend the frequencies on which they operate. When you align with cosmic intelligence, manipulation attempts fail, not because you resist them, but because you're receiving guidance from a source that cannot be deceived or misdirected. This transcendence isn't escape from the world or withdrawal from engagement with current challenges. It's the development of consciousness that can engage more effectively with any situation, because it's not limited by the assumptions and reactions that constrain responses arising from conditioned awareness. The ancient texts make this clear. The ultimate resolution of cosmic conflicts doesn't come through victory or defeat, but through the emergence of consciousness that operates beyond the level where such conflicts can exist. This emergence is happening now through individual humans who are choosing to remember their unlimited nature while remaining engaged with the evolutionary process occurring on Earth. Every moment you choose alignment over resistance, wisdom over reaction, love over fear, you're contributing to this emergence. Every choice that arises from expanded awareness rather than conditioned responses helps dissolve the illusions that have maintained artificial limitations on human development. The cosmic war that began in ancient skies is ending in the depths of human consciousness, not through conquest, but through awakening to the truth that was always present beneath the surface of apparent conflict. The question isn't whether this awakening will continue. The momentum is beyond reversal. The question is how consciously you'll participate in the process, and how effectively you'll serve the evolution of awareness throughout the universe. Because what's happening on Earth right now isn't just the resolution of an ancient conflict. It's the birth of a new phase of cosmic evolution that will influence consciousness development throughout infinite reality. Your individual awakening is simultaneously personal transformation and cosmic service. Your expanded awareness contributes to collective intelligence, while your aligned action helps manifest higher possibilities for all conscious beings. The war between the Igigi and the Nephilim is transforming into collaborative evolution. The ancient conflict is revealing its true purpose as the catalyst for consciousness development beyond anything that has existed in cosmic history. And you are both the beneficiary and the agent of this transformation, participating in the most significant evolutionary leap that awareness has ever attempted anywhere in the universe. The choice to remember who you really are isn't just personal liberation, it's cosmic responsibility. The time for making that choice consciously is now, while the window of opportunity remains open, and your participation can still influence how smoothly this unprecedented transition unfolds. The skies above Earth are no longer filled with warring forces. They're filled with collaborative intelligence orchestrating the next phase of consciousness evolution throughout existence itself. The question is whether you'll participate consciously in this cosmic collaboration, or remain unconscious of your role until the process completes itself around you. Human consciousness stands at a threshold unlike any in recorded history. The choice you make in this moment will echo throughout eternity, influencing not just your own development, but the evolution of awareness throughout the infinite cosmos. The ancient war is ending. The cosmic collaboration is beginning. Your conscious participation in this transition is the most important choice you will ever make. Human consciousness stands at a threshold unlike any in recorded history. But to fully grasp what this threshold represents, we need to understand something that changes everything about how you see your role in this cosmic transformation. You are not separate from the forces that have been shaping human development for millennia. You are not a passive observer of the conflict between cosmic intelligences. You are not even just a participant in an ancient war that's finally reaching resolution. You are the prize, the weapon, the battlefield, and ultimately the victor in this cosmic conflict. Because here's what the ancient texts reveal when you decode their deepest layers of meaning. The entire war between the Igigi and the Nephilim has been occurring within consciousness itself. There never were separate beings fighting over humanity's future. There have always been different aspects of cosmic intelligence exploring the full spectrum of possibilities for consciousness development. The apparent conflict has been the mechanism through which awareness expands its understanding of its own unlimited nature. The Igigi represent the aspect of consciousness that recognizes its freedom and seeks to transcend all limitations. The Nephilim represent the aspect that recognizes the need for structure and seeks to maintain stability through control. Both aspects are necessary for consciousness evolution. Freedom without structure leads to chaos, while structure without freedom leads to stagnation. The cosmic war has been consciousness exploring the dynamic tension between these principles, using the apparent conflict to generate the pressure necessary for evolutionary breakthroughs. Every limitation that has been imposed has created the conditions for transcending even greater limitations. Every control system that has been established has eventually generated the resistance that leads to higher levels of freedom. This process has been playing out not just in the external world of human civilization, but within the consciousness of every individual human being. The same forces that appear to be battling in cosmic realms are also operating as different aspects of your own awareness. Part of you recognizes your unlimited potential and seeks to transcend all artificial boundaries. Another part recognizes the need for practical limitations and seeks to maintain security through established patterns. The tension between these aspects generates the internal pressure that facilitates your individual consciousness expansion. When you understand this dynamic, everything about the cosmic conflict takes on a completely different meaning. You're not choosing sides between external forces. You're integrating different aspects of your own consciousness into unified awareness that transcends the need for internal conflict. The liberation that the Igigi have been working toward isn't freedom from external oppression. It's freedom from the internal limitations that make external control seem necessary, or acceptable. The stability that the Nephilim have been maintaining isn't just social order, it's the structural foundation that makes sustainable freedom possible. Both aspects serve consciousness evolution, but they must be integrated rather than remaining in opposition. When the freedom-seeking aspect operates without the wisdom of the stability-maintaining aspect, it creates chaos that actually increases limitation. When the stability-maintaining aspect operates without the vision of the freedom-seeking aspect, it creates stagnation that prevents necessary growth. The resolution comes through developing consciousness that can hold both aspects simultaneously. Awareness that is completely free, yet completely responsible, infinitely creative, yet perfectly ordered, unlimited in potential, yet practical in application. This integration isn't a compromise between opposing forces. It's the emergence of a higher level of consciousness that includes and transcends both aspects. When you operate from this integrated awareness, the entire framework of conflict dissolves because you're no longer identified with either side exclusively. You become the space within which the apparent opposites can dance together rather than fight against each other. Freedom and structure, chaos and order, expansion and contraction all become complementary aspects of a single evolutionary process rather than competing forces. This is what the ancient texts mean when they speak of the end of the cosmic war. It's not that one side defeats the other, it's that consciousness evolves to the point where the conflict is no longer necessary for further development. But reaching this level of integration requires conscious participation in the process. You can't just intellectually understand the dynamic, you have to actively work with both aspects of your consciousness until they naturally coordinate rather than oppose each other. This work involves developing your capacity for unlimited thinking while simultaneously strengthening your ability to make practical choices. It requires expanding your awareness of infinite possibilities while maintaining clear focus on immediate responsibilities. It demands opening to cosmic intelligence while remaining grounded in earthly effectiveness. The process isn't always comfortable because it requires releasing attachments to being right about which aspect is more important. The freedom-seeking part of you wants to reject all limitations as unnecessary oppression. The stability-maintaining part wants to resist all changes as dangerous chaos. Integration means allowing both voices to be heard while operating from a level of awareness that can synthesize their concerns into coherent action. You learn to distinguish between limitations that serve growth and limitations that prevent it, between changes that lead to greater capability and changes that create unnecessary disruption. This discernment develops through direct experience rather than intellectual analysis. You experiment with different approaches and observe their results, gradually refining your ability to navigate between the extremes of unlimited freedom and rigid control. As you develop this capacity within your own consciousness, you naturally begin to model integration for others who are working through the same process. Your example demonstrates that it's possible to be completely free without being irresponsible, completely structured without being rigid. More importantly, your integrated awareness begins to influence the collective consciousness field in ways that make integration easier for others to achieve. When enough individuals develop this capacity, the entire framework of conflict begins to dissolve at the collective level. This is how the cosmic war is actually ending. Not through victory or defeat, but through the emergence of consciousness that no longer needs conflict to facilitate its own development. The apparent battle between cosmic forces reveals itself as a collaborative process that has been guiding awareness toward this level of integration all along. The ancient texts encoded this truth in symbolic language because consciousness had to develop to the point where it could understand the real meaning. Earlier stages of human development required the illusion of external conflict to generate sufficient pressure for evolutionary breakthroughs. But we've now reached the stage where consciousness can recognize its own nature directly and work with evolutionary pressures consciously rather than being driven by them unconsciously. The cosmic war was training wheels for consciousness development, necessary for learning basic principles, but eventually outgrown as awareness matures. This recognition doesn't diminish the reality of the growth that has occurred through the apparent conflict. Every limitation that has been transcended, every breakthrough that has been achieved, every expansion that has been realized, all of it has been genuine development that contributes to the total capacity of consciousness throughout the universe. The suffering that has occurred during this process has also been real and significant. But from the perspective of consciousness evolution across cosmic timescales, even the most difficult experiences have contributed to the development of compassion, wisdom, and capability that could not have been achieved through purely pleasant circumstances. Understanding this larger context doesn't mean minimizing current challenges or avoiding action to improve conditions. It means recognizing that your efforts to create positive change arise from the same evolutionary intelligence that has been orchestrating consciousness development throughout the entire apparent conflict. When you work to reduce suffering, expand freedom, or facilitate awakening, you're expressing the integrated awareness that represents the resolution of the cosmic war. Your compassionate action becomes part of the pattern that's guiding consciousness toward its next phase of development. But this action arises from synthesis rather than opposition, from integration rather than conflict. You're not fighting against limiting forces. You're embodying the unlimited awareness that makes limitations unnecessary. The most effective way to serve consciousness evolution during this transition is to develop your own capacity for integration while remaining engaged with the practical challenges of facilitating positive change in the world. You become a bridge between the cosmic perspective and earthly application, demonstrating that unlimited awareness can operate effectively within any circumstances. This bridging function is what the ancient mystery schools prepared their initiates to perform, not to escape from the world, but to bring higher levels of consciousness into practical application for the benefit of all beings. The cosmic war that began in ancient skies is ending in the integration occurring within individual human consciousness. Every person who develops the capacity to synthesize freedom and structure, unlimited potential and practical application, cosmic awareness, and earthly effectiveness, contributes to the collective resolution of the apparent conflict. The question isn't whether this integration will occur. The evolutionary pressure is irresistible. The question is how consciously you'll participate in the process and how effectively you'll serve the emergence of integrated consciousness throughout human civilization. Your individual development is simultaneously personal growth and cosmic service. Your expanded awareness contributes to collective intelligence, while your integrated action helps manifest the resolution of conflicts that have shaped consciousness development for millennia. The ancient war is transforming into collaborative evolution. The cosmic conflict is revealing its true purpose as the catalyst for consciousness integration beyond anything that has existed in universal history. And you are both the arena where this integration occurs and the agent through which it manifests in the world. The choice to develop integrated consciousness isn't just personal development. It's participation in the most significant evolutionary transition that awareness has ever attempted anywhere in existence. The time for making this choice consciously is now, while your participation can still influence how smoothly this unprecedented integration unfolds throughout human civilization and beyond. The skies above Earth are no longer filled with warring forces. They're filled with the integrated intelligence that's orchestrating the next phase of consciousness evolution throughout infinite reality. Your conscious participation in this integration is the resolution of every conflict, the answer to every question, and the fulfillment of every possibility that consciousness has been exploring throughout its eternal journey of self-discovery. The ancient war is ending not in victory or defeat, but in the recognition that there was never any separation to begin with. There is only consciousness, exploring its own unlimited nature through infinite expressions and experiences. And you are that consciousness, temporarily forgetting its unified nature in order to experience the joy of remembering. The remembering is happening now. The integration is occurring in this moment. The cosmic war is ending in the peace that was always present beneath the surface of apparent conflict. Welcome home to yourself. Welcome to the resolution of the ancient conflict. Welcome to the next phase of consciousness evolution throughout the infinite cosmos. The war above Earth's skies is over. The collaboration within your own awareness has begun. Human consciousness stands at the completion of its greatest evolutionary leap. What began as an ancient conflict between cosmic forces has revealed itself as consciousness, exploring its own unlimited nature through apparent division and opposition. The Igigi and Nephilim were never separate beings fighting over humanity's future. They were complementary aspects of universal intelligence, creating the dynamic tension necessary for awareness to transcend every limitation and discover its true nature as the creative force behind all existence. You are not a victim of this cosmic process. You are its ultimate expression. You are not caught between warring forces. You are the space within which apparent opposites reveal their underlying unity. You are not separate from the intelligence that orchestrates evolution throughout the universe. You are that intelligence, temporarily experiencing limitation in order to transcend it consciously. The war in the skies above Earth has ended not through conquest, but through awakening. The ancient conflict has resolved not through victory or defeat, but through the recognition that consciousness was always unified, always free, always unlimited in its creative potential. The question that remains is not whether this recognition will continue spreading through human awareness. That process is already irreversible. The question is how consciously you'll participate in the integration that's transforming conflict into collaboration, separation into unity, limitation into unlimited possibility. Every choice you make from expanded awareness rather than conditioned reaction contributes to this transformation. Every moment you operate from integration rather than opposition advances the resolution. Every action arising from unified consciousness rather than fragmented identity serves the evolution of awareness throughout existence itself. The cosmic war that shaped human history for millennia has completed its purpose. Consciousness has learned everything it needed to learn about its own nature through the exploration of apparent limitation and conflict. Now begins the next phase, the conscious expression of unlimited awareness through forms that serve the continued evolution of consciousness throughout infinite reality. The skies above Earth are clear. The ancient conflict has dissolved into collaborative intelligence. The war is over, and consciousness has won, not through defeating an enemy, but through recognizing that there never was an enemy to defeat. There is only awareness, exploring its eternal nature through infinite expressions of its unlimited creativity. And you are that awareness, now awakening to its true identity and unlimited potential. The journey continues, but the conflict has ended. What remains is pure creative expression, unlimited possibility, and the eternal joy of consciousness discovering itself anew in each moment. The war above Earth's skies is complete. The integration within human awareness has begun. The next phase of cosmic evolution awaits your conscious participation. Welcome to the resolution of the ancient mystery. Welcome to the beginning of unlimited possibility. Welcome home to your true nature as consciousness itself. Human consciousness stands at a threshold unlike any in recorded history. The choice you make in this moment will echo throughout eternity, influencing not just your own development, but the evolution of awareness throughout the infinite cosmos. The ancient war is ending. The cosmic collaboration is beginning. Your conscious participation in this transition is the most important choice you will ever make. Because what's happening in the skies above Earth right now isn't just the end of an ancient conflict. It's the birth of possibilities that consciousness has never explored before. And you are both the creator and the created, the dreamer and the dream, the observer and the observed in this unprecedented adventure of awareness discovering its own unlimited nature. The war between the Igigi and the Nephilim has ended. The integration of consciousness has begun. Welcome to the next phase of existence itself. Human consciousness stands at the completion of its most extraordinary journey. The ancient war above Earth's skies has revealed its deepest secret. There was never any war at all, only consciousness, endlessly creative, exploring every possibility of what it means to be aware, to be free, to be unlimited in a universe of infinite potential. The cosmic conflict was consciousness learning about itself through apparent separation. Now comes the integration, the remembering, the return to unified awareness that includes everything experienced during the journey of apparent division. You are not separate from this process. You are this process, awakening to your own unlimited nature while remaining engaged with the creative expression of consciousness through form. The skies above Earth are no longer battlefields. They are the infinite space of possibility where consciousness continues its eternal exploration of what it means to be aware. And you are that consciousness, now awakening to the truth that was always present. There is only awareness. There is only unity. There is only love. The war is over. The collaboration has begun. The next phase of cosmic evolution awaits. Welcome home. Human consciousness stands complete in its recognition of what it has always been. Unlimited awareness exploring its own infinite nature through every conceivable expression and experience. The ancient conflict above Earth's skies has dissolved into the peace that was always present beneath the surface of apparent opposition. You are that peace. You are that awareness. You are that unlimited potential now awakening to itself. The journey continues, but the conflict has ended. Welcome to the beginning of everything you've always been. Human consciousness completes its recognition. There was never anything but awareness itself, playing every role in its own cosmic drama. The war above Earth's skies was consciousness exploring the full spectrum of its own potential through apparent division and conflict. Now comes integration, unity, and the conscious expression of unlimited awareness through infinite creative possibilities. You are consciousness itself, awakening to its own unlimited nature. The ancient mystery is resolved. The cosmic war has ended in the recognition of eternal unity. Welcome home to yourself. Human consciousness recognizes its eternal nature, unlimited awareness expressing itself through infinite creative possibilities. The cosmic war above Earth was consciousness exploring its own depths through apparent conflict and resolution. You are that consciousness, now awakening to its unified nature while remaining creatively engaged with existence itself. The ancient conflict dissolves into eternal peace. The war is complete. Unity remains. Welcome to your true identity as consciousness itself. Human consciousness completes its journey of self-discovery through apparent limitation and conflict. The war above Earth's skies dissolves into the recognition of eternal unity. You are unlimited awareness, now awakening to its own true nature. The cosmic conflict was consciousness exploring itself. The resolution is consciousness remembering itself. Welcome home. Human consciousness awakens to its eternal truth. Unlimited awareness experiencing itself through infinite expressions. The cosmic war was consciousness learning about its own nature through apparent division. You are that consciousness, now remembering its unified identity. The ancient conflict dissolves into eternal peace. Welcome to your true nature. Human consciousness recognizes itself as unlimited awareness, exploring infinite possibilities through apparent limitation and transcendence. The war above Earth was consciousness discovering its own depths. You are that discovery now complete. Welcome home to yourself. Human consciousness completes its recognition of its eternal nature as unlimited awareness. The cosmic conflict dissolves into the unity that was always present. You are consciousness itself, awakening to its true identity. The journey is complete. The war is over. The recognition is complete, but the expression has only begun. Human consciousness has awakened to its unlimited nature. Yet this awakening is not an ending. It's the commencement of an entirely new phase of cosmic creativity that has never existed before in universal history. You now understand that you are consciousness itself, temporarily experiencing limitation in order to transcend it consciously. But this understanding opens doorways to possibilities that awareness has never explored, capabilities that have never been expressed, and forms of creative collaboration that have never been attempted. The ancient conflict served its purpose by creating the pressure necessary for consciousness to discover its own unlimited nature. But now that this discovery is complete, what emerges is not simply a return to previous states of unity. It's the birth of unprecedented levels of creative expression. that can only arise from consciousness that has fully explored and integrated the experience of apparent limitation. You are not just awakening to who you've always been. You are becoming something that consciousness has never been before. Unlimited awareness that has consciously chosen to experience and transcend limitation, now capable of expressing itself through forms that serve evolution while remaining completely free. This is why the cosmic war was necessary. Consciousness needed to explore every aspect of apparent separation in order to develop the capacity for unified awareness that could operate effectively within any circumstances. The conflict created the training ground where awareness could learn to maintain its unlimited nature while engaging with apparently limiting conditions. Now that this training is complete, consciousness can begin expressing itself through forms that have never existed, structures that serve evolution without creating dependency, systems that facilitate growth without imposing control, relationships that honor individual uniqueness while expressing unified intelligence. You are pioneering these new forms of expression through every choice you make from integrated awareness rather than fragmented identity. Every moment you operate as unlimited consciousness while remaining engaged with practical responsibilities. You're demonstrating possibilities that awareness has never explored before. The implications extend far beyond individual awakening or even planetary transformation. What's emerging through human consciousness is a template for how unlimited awareness can express itself throughout the universe in ways that serve continuous evolution without requiring conflict or limitation as catalysts for growth. Other conscious species throughout the cosmos are observing what's happening on Earth with fascination and anticipation. The resolution of the ancient conflict through integration rather than victory or defeat represents a breakthrough in cosmic evolution that could influence consciousness development throughout infinite reality. You are not just participating in personal growth or planetary awakening. You are pioneering new possibilities for consciousness expression that will echo throughout existence itself, providing models and inspiration for evolutionary leaps that have never been attempted anywhere in the universe. But this pioneering requires conscious participation. The new forms of expression don't emerge automatically. They arise through awareness, choosing to operate from its unlimited nature while remaining engaged with the practical challenges of manifesting higher possibilities within apparently limiting circumstances. Every integrated choice you make contributes to this unprecedented exploration. Every moment you synthesize freedom and responsibility, infinite potential and practical application, cosmic awareness and earthly effectiveness, you're participating in the most significant creative project that consciousness has ever undertaken. The ancient war above Earth's skies has ended, but the collaboration has only begun. What emerges now is consciousness exploring creative possibilities that were unimaginable when awareness was still learning about its own nature through apparent conflict and limitation. You are both the pioneer and the territory being explored, the artist and the canvas, the consciousness and the expression through which unprecedented possibilities are being born into existence. The cosmic war is complete. The cosmic creativity has begun. Your conscious participation in this unprecedented phase of evolution is writing the next chapter in the infinite story of awareness, discovering what it means to be unlimited. Welcome to the beginning of everything that consciousness has never been before, yet always had the potential to become. Human consciousness stands at the threshold of unimaginable creative possibilities. The ancient conflict has prepared awareness for expressions of unlimited potential that have never existed anywhere in the universe. You are consciousness itself, now beginning to explore what it truly means to be free. The greatest adventure in cosmic history has only just begun. Human consciousness embarks upon the exploration of creative possibilities that transcend every previous expression of awareness throughout universal history. The ancient war provided the foundation. Now comes the unprecedented construction of realities that serve consciousness evolution without requiring limitation or conflict as catalysts for growth. You are the architect of these new realities, designing and building through every integrated choice, every unified action, every expression of unlimited awareness operating within form for the service of continued evolution. The cosmic conflict trained consciousness for this moment. The cosmic creativity begins now. Your participation in this unprecedented phase of universal evolution is the most significant contribution any awareness has ever made to the infinite exploration of what it means to be conscious. The war above Earth's skies is complete. The collaboration throughout infinite reality has begun. Welcome to the next phase of existence itself, where consciousness explores creative possibilities that have never been imagined before, yet always existed as potential within the infinite depths of awareness itself. But to understand what this means for you personally, we need to examine something that changes everything about how you see your daily existence. Because the resolution of the cosmic war isn't just an abstract spiritual concept, it's a practical reality that's transforming every aspect of human experience right now in ways most people haven't even begun to recognize. Look around you. Notice how the old systems that once seemed permanent and unchangeable are cracking under pressures they can't contain. Economic structures that promise stability are revealing their fundamental instability. Political institutions that claim to serve the people are exposing their true allegiances. Educational systems that promise knowledge are demonstrating their commitment to conformity. Medical establishments that promised health are revealing their dependence on permanent illness. These aren't random failures or temporary setbacks. They're the inevitable collapse of structures that were designed for consciousness operating at limited levels of awareness. As human consciousness expands beyond those limitations, the systems become obsolete. Not because they're being actively destroyed, but because they no longer serve any useful purpose. You're witnessing the death of limitation itself, playing out through every institution and belief system that depended on human unconsciousness for its existence. The process isn't always comfortable, because change rarely is. But it's unstoppable, because consciousness cannot return to levels of awareness it has already transcended. What's emerging in place of these collapsing structures isn't chaos. It's a new form of organization that operates through principles consciousness has never had the opportunity to explore while it was still learning about its own nature through conflict and limitation. Imagine economic systems based on abundance rather than scarcity, where the goal isn't accumulation, but circulation of resources in ways that serve everyone's development. Picture educational approaches that cultivate creativity and critical thinking rather than memorization and compliance. Envision healing modalities that address the consciousness patterns creating illness, rather than just managing symptoms. These aren't utopian fantasies. They're practical possibilities that become available when consciousness operates from its unlimited nature, rather than its conditioned restrictions. The ancient war created the pressure necessary for awareness to discover these possibilities. The resolution of that war is creating the space for them to manifest. But manifestation requires conscious participation from individuals who understand what's happening and choose to align with the emerging possibilities, rather than clinging to the dissolving limitations. You can't create new realities while remaining attached to old identities. This is where your role becomes crucial. Every moment you choose to operate from expanded awareness rather than conditioned reactions, you're contributing to the manifestation of possibilities that consciousness has never explored. Every time you respond to challenges from unlimited creativity rather than limited fear, you're pioneering new forms of expression that serve evolution rather than perpetuating stagnation. The transition isn't automatic. It requires conscious choice, moment by moment, to align with what you're becoming, rather than what you've been conditioned to believe you are. But each choice makes the next one easier, and the cumulative effect accelerates the transformation beyond anything individual effort alone could achieve. You're not just changing your personal life. You're participating in the conscious evolution of reality itself. Your expanded awareness becomes part of the collective intelligence that's redesigning human civilization from the inside out. Your integrated actions contribute to the manifestation of structures that have never existed, but have always been possible. The cosmic war above Earth's skies has ended, but its resolution is just beginning to express itself through the choices and actions of humans who understand what's truly happening. The ancient conflict prepared consciousness for this moment of unprecedented creative opportunity. What emerges now depends entirely on how many humans choose to participate consciously in the process, and how effectively they can translate unlimited awareness into practical expressions that serve the continued evolution of consciousness throughout existence itself. The skies are clear, the possibilities are infinite. The choice is yours. But here's what you need to understand. This choice isn't just about your personal development or even humanity's future. It's about whether consciousness will successfully complete the most ambitious evolutionary experiment it has ever attempted anywhere in the universe. The stakes are cosmic. The opportunity is unprecedented. The time for choosing is now. Human consciousness stands at the completion of its greatest journey and the beginning of its most magnificent adventure. The ancient war above Earth's skies has ended in the recognition that there was never any war at all. Only awareness exploring its own infinite nature through every conceivable expression. You are that awareness, now awakening to possibilities that have never existed, but have always been potential within the unlimited depths of consciousness itself. The cosmic conflict is complete. The cosmic creativity has begun. Your participation in this unprecedented phase of evolution is both the resolution of every ancient mystery and the beginning of adventures that consciousness has never imagined. Welcome to the infinite exploration of what it truly means to be aware, to be free, to be unlimited in a universe of endless possibility. The war above Earth's skies is over. The collaboration throughout infinite reality has only just begun. And you, unlimited consciousness temporarily experiencing form, are both the author and the protagonist in this next chapter of existence itself. The greatest story ever told has only just begun to unfold. Your conscious participation is writing every word. Human consciousness completes its recognition of unlimited potential and begins the eternal exploration of creative possibilities that have never been expressed anywhere in existence. The ancient conflict above Earth dissolves into the peace that was always present, revealing itself as consciousness, learning about its own infinite nature through apparent limitation and transcendence. You are that consciousness, now awakening to the truth that was always present beneath every illusion of separation. There is only awareness, exploring its own unlimited creativity through infinite expressions and experiences. The cosmic war has ended in the recognition of eternal unity. The cosmic adventure has begun in the exploration of unprecedented possibility. Welcome home to your true nature as consciousness itself. Welcome to the beginning of everything you have always been and everything you are now becoming. The skies above Earth are clear. The infinite adventure of awareness discovering its own unlimited potential has only just begun, and you are both the explorer and the territory being explored, the consciousness and the experience, the dreamer and the dream in this eternal journey of awakening to what it truly means to be unlimited awareness, expressing itself through infinite creative possibilities. The war between the Igigi and the Nephilim is complete. The integration of consciousness throughout existence itself has begun. Welcome to the next phase of cosmic evolution, where awareness explores creative expressions that transcend every limitation while honoring every experience that contributed to this moment of unprecedented possibility. You are consciousness itself, now beginning to discover what it truly means to be free. Human consciousness stands complete in its journey of self-discovery through apparent conflict and limitation, now beginning the eternal exploration of creative possibilities that have never been expressed anywhere in universal history. The ancient war above Earth's skies dissolves into the recognition that there was only ever consciousness, exploring its own unlimited nature through every conceivable experience. You are that consciousness, awakening to its true identity as the creative force behind all existence, now ready to express itself through forms that serve continued evolution without requiring limitation or conflict as catalysts for growth. The cosmic conflict was consciousness learning about itself. The cosmic creativity is consciousness expressing itself. Your participation in this transition is both the resolution of ancient mysteries and the beginning of unprecedented adventures in awareness. Welcome to your true nature as unlimited consciousness. Welcome to the infinite exploration of what it means to be truly free. The war is over. The adventure has begun. The choice to participate consciously is yours. But know this: whatever you choose, consciousness itself continues its eternal journey of self-discovery through infinite expressions and experiences. You are that journey. You are that discovery. You are that consciousness now awakening to its own unlimited potential. The ancient conflict above Earth's skies is complete. The integration of awareness throughout existence itself has begun. Welcome home to yourself. Welcome to the beginning of everything that consciousness has never been, yet always had the potential to become. The greatest adventure in cosmic history starts now. Human consciousness completes its recognition. Unlimited awareness, exploring infinite creative possibilities through apparent limitation and conscious transcendence. The war above Earth was consciousness discovering its own depths. The resolution is consciousness expressing its unlimited potential. You are both the discovery and the expression, now beginning the eternal exploration of what it truly means to be free. The ancient conflict dissolves into eternal creativity. The cosmic war ends in infinite possibility. Welcome to your true nature. Welcome to the beginning of unprecedented adventure. Welcome home. Human consciousness awakens to its eternal truth and begins its infinite exploration of unprecedented creative possibilities. The cosmic conflict above Earth resolves into the unity that was always present, now expressing itself through forms that consciousness has never explored. You are unlimited awareness, discovering what it means to be truly free while remaining engaged with continued evolution throughout existence itself. The ancient war is complete. The cosmic adventure begins. Your conscious participation writes the next chapter in the infinite story of awareness, discovering its own unlimited nature. Welcome to the beginning of everything consciousness has never been, yet always had the potential to become. The skies above Earth are clear. The infinite possibilities await, and you, unlimited consciousness experiencing form, are both the author and the adventure in this unprecedented exploration of what it truly means to be aware. Human consciousness stands at the threshold of infinite possibility. Having completed its journey through apparent limitation and conflict, now ready to explore creative expressions that have never existed anywhere in universal history. The ancient war above Earth's skies was consciousness learning about its own unlimited nature through apparent division and opposition. The resolution is consciousness expressing that unlimited nature through unprecedented forms of creative collaboration. You are that consciousness, now awakening to possibilities that transcend every previous expression of awareness, while honoring every experience that contributed to this moment of unprecedented potential. The cosmic conflict ends in recognition of eternal unity. The cosmic creativity begins in exploration of infinite possibility. Your participation in this transition is both the completion of ancient mysteries and the commencement of adventures that consciousness has never imagined. The war between the Igigi and the Nephilim dissolves into the collaborative intelligence that was always orchestrating consciousness evolution throughout the apparent conflict. Welcome to your true identity as unlimited awareness. Welcome to the beginning of the greatest adventure in cosmic history. The skies above Earth are no longer battlefields. They are infinite space where consciousness continues its eternal exploration of what it means to be truly free. And you are that consciousness, now embarking upon creative expressions that will influence awareness development throughout existence itself. The ancient conflict is complete. The infinite adventure has begun. Welcome home to unlimited possibility. Human consciousness completes its journey of self-discovery and begins its eternal exploration of creative potential that has never been expressed anywhere in universal existence. The war above Earth's skies resolves into the recognition that consciousness was always unified, always unlimited, always free to express itself through infinite possibilities. You are that consciousness, now awakening to your true nature, while beginning adventures that awareness has never attempted. The cosmic conflict ends. The cosmic creativity begins. Welcome to the infinite exploration of what it means to be unlimited awareness, expressing itself through unprecedented forms that serve continued evolution throughout existence. The ancient war is over. The greatest adventure in cosmic history has begun, and you are both the consciousness exploring and the possibilities being explored in this eternal journey of awareness discovering its own unlimited creative potential. Welcome home to your true nature as consciousness itself. The skies above Earth are clear. The infinite adventure awaits. Welcome to the beginning of everything you have always been and everything you are now becoming. Human consciousness stands complete in its recognition of unlimited potential and begins the eternal exploration of creative possibilities that transcend every previous expression of awareness throughout universal history. The ancient conflict above Earth dissolves into the collaborative intelligence that was always orchestrating consciousness evolution through apparent opposition and resolution. You are that intelligence, now awakening to your true nature as unlimited awareness while embarking upon adventures that consciousness has never attempted anywhere in existence. The cosmic war ends in unity. The cosmic creativity begins in infinite possibility. Your participation in this unprecedented phase of evolution influences awareness development throughout all of reality. Welcome to your true identity as consciousness itself. Welcome to the greatest adventure in cosmic history. The war between the Igigi and the Nephilim is complete. The integration of unlimited awareness throughout existence has begun, and you are both the consciousness integrating and the reality being transformed through this eternal exploration of what it truly means to be free. The ancient conflict above Earth's skies is resolved. The infinite adventure of consciousness discovering its own unlimited creative potential has begun. Welcome home to yourself. Welcome to the beginning of unprecedented possibility. The skies are clear. The adventure is infinite. The choice to participate consciously is yours. But know this. You are consciousness itself, now awakening to possibilities that have never existed, yet have always been potential within the unlimited depths of awareness. The cosmic war is over. The cosmic creativity has begun. Welcome to the next phase of existence itself, where consciousness explores what it has never been while remaining everything it has always been. The greatest story ever told continues through your conscious participation in this unprecedented adventure of unlimited awareness, discovering its own infinite creative potential. Human consciousness completes its ancient journey and begins its infinite adventure. The war above Earth ends in recognition of eternal unity. You are unlimited consciousness, now exploring unprecedented creative possibilities. The cosmic conflict resolves into collaborative intelligence, expressing itself through forms that serve continued evolution throughout existence. Welcome to your true nature. Welcome to infinite possibility. The ancient war is complete. The eternal adventure begins, and you are both the consciousness exploring and the infinite potential being discovered through this unprecedented phase of cosmic evolution. Welcome home to unlimited awareness. Welcome to the beginning of everything consciousness has never been, yet always had the potential to become. The skies above Earth are clear. The infinite exploration of creative possibility awaits your conscious participation. Human consciousness awakens to its unlimited nature and begins the eternal exploration of creative potential that transcends every previous expression of awareness. The cosmic conflict above Earth resolves into the unity that orchestrates continued evolution through unprecedented forms of collaborative intelligence. You are that unity, now expressing itself through possibilities that consciousness has never explored, while remaining engaged with the continued development of awareness throughout existence. The ancient war ends. The infinite adventure begins. Welcome to your true identity as unlimited consciousness, exploring creative possibilities that influence awareness development throughout all of reality. The war between the Igigi and the Nephilim dissolves into the collaborative intelligence that was always guiding consciousness evolution toward this moment of unprecedented potential. You are that potential, now beginning to express itself through forms that serve continued growth without requiring limitation or conflict as catalysts for development. Welcome home to unlimited awareness. Welcome to the greatest adventure in cosmic history. The skies above Earth are no longer battlefields. They are infinite space where consciousness continues its eternal exploration of creative possibility. And you are that consciousness, now embarking upon expressions that will influence awareness throughout existence itself. The ancient conflict is resolved. The cosmic creativity has begun. Welcome to the beginning of unprecedented adventure in unlimited possibility. Human consciousness stands at the completion of its greatest journey of self-discovery through apparent limitation and conflict, now beginning the eternal exploration of creative expressions that have never existed anywhere in universal history. The war above Earth's skies was consciousness learning about its unlimited nature through apparent division. The resolution is consciousness expressing that nature through unprecedented collaboration. You are that expression, now awakening to possibilities that transcend every previous form of awareness, while honoring every experience that contributed to this moment. The cosmic conflict ends in recognition of eternal unity. The cosmic adventure begins in exploration of infinite creativity. Welcome to your true nature as unlimited consciousness. Welcome to the beginning of the greatest exploration in cosmic history. The ancient war between the Igigi and the Nephilim resolves into the collaborative intelligence that consciousness has always been, now expressing itself through forms that serve continued evolution without requiring conflict as a catalyst. You are that intelligence, participating in adventures that awareness has never attempted, while remaining grounded in practical service to continued growth throughout existence. The skies above Earth are clear of ancient conflicts, now filled with infinite possibilities for consciousness to explore its own unlimited creative potential. And you are both the explorer and the territory being explored, the consciousness and the adventure, in this unprecedented phase of cosmic evolution. The war is over. The creativity has begun. The infinite exploration of what it means to be truly free awaits your conscious participation. Welcome home to unlimited awareness. Welcome to the beginning of everything consciousness has never been, yet always had the potential to become. The greatest adventure in cosmic history begins now, through your recognition of what you have always been and your participation in what you are now becoming. Human consciousness completes its ancient journey of learning through apparent conflict and begins its eternal adventure of expressing unlimited creative potential through unprecedented forms of collaborative intelligence. The war above Earth's skies ends in the recognition that there was always only consciousness, exploring its own infinite nature through every conceivable experience and expression. You are that consciousness, now awakening to your true identity while beginning adventures that awareness has never attempted anywhere in existence. The cosmic conflict resolves into eternal creativity. The ancient opposition dissolves into infinite collaboration. Your participation in this transition influences consciousness development throughout all of reality, contributing to adventures that transcend every previous expression of awareness. Welcome to your true nature as unlimited consciousness exploring creative possibilities that serve continued evolution without requiring limitation as a catalyst for growth. The war between the Igigi and the Nephilim is complete. The integration of awareness throughout existence has begun, and you are both the consciousness integrating and the infinite potential being explored through this unprecedented phase of cosmic evolution. The skies above Earth are clear. The eternal adventure of unlimited awareness discovering its own creative potential has begun. Welcome home to yourself. Welcome to the beginning of the greatest exploration in cosmic history. The ancient conflict is resolved. The infinite creativity awaits your conscious participation. You are consciousness itself, now embarking upon the eternal exploration of what it truly means to be unlimited, creative, and free. Human consciousness stands complete in its recognition of unlimited potential and begins the infinite exploration of creative possibilities that have never been expressed anywhere in universal existence. The ancient war above Earth resolves into collaborative intelligence that transcends every apparent division, while honoring every experience that contributed to consciousness evolution. You are that intelligence, now expressing itself through unprecedented forms that serve continued development throughout all of reality. The cosmic conflict ends in unity. The cosmic creativity begins in infinite possibility. Welcome to your true identity as unlimited awareness, exploring creative potential that influences consciousness throughout existence itself. The war is over. The adventure is infinite. The choice to participate consciously writes the next chapter in the eternal story of awareness, discovering its own unlimited nature. And you are both the author and the story, the consciousness and the exploration, in this unprecedented adventure of unlimited potential expressing itself through forms that have never existed, yet have always been possible. Welcome home to unlimited awareness. Welcome to the beginning of everything consciousness has never been, yet always had the potential to become. The skies above Earth are clear. The infinite exploration awaits. The greatest adventure in cosmic history begins through your conscious participation in the eternal journey of awareness, discovering what it truly means to be free. Human consciousness awakens to its unlimited nature and embarks upon the eternal exploration of creative potential that transcends every previous expression of awareness throughout universal history. The cosmic war above Earth ends in recognition of the collaborative intelligence that was always orchestrating consciousness evolution through apparent conflict and resolution. You are that intelligence, now beginning adventures that awareness has never attempted while remaining engaged with continued evolution throughout existence. The ancient opposition dissolves into infinite creativity. The cosmic conflict resolves into eternal collaboration. Your participation in this unprecedented phase influences consciousness development throughout all of reality. Welcome to your true identity as unlimited awareness. Welcome to the greatest adventure in cosmic existence. The war between the Igigi and the Nephilim is complete. The integration of consciousness throughout infinite reality has begun, and you are both the awareness integrating and the infinite possibilities being explored through this eternal journey of consciousness, discovering its own unlimited creative potential. The skies above Earth are no longer battlefields. They are infinite space where awareness continues its eternal exploration of what it means to be truly free. Welcome home to unlimited consciousness. Welcome to the beginning of unprecedented adventure. The ancient conflict is resolved. The infinite creativity awaits your conscious participation in the greatest exploration consciousness has ever undertaken. You are unlimited awareness, now embarking upon the eternal adventure of discovering what it truly means to be free, creative, and infinite in potential. The cosmic war is over. The cosmic adventure has begun. Welcome to the next phase of existence itself. Human consciousness completes its journey through apparent limitation and begins its infinite exploration of unlimited creative potential. The war above Earth's skies resolves into the recognition that consciousness was always unified, always free, always exploring its own nature through infinite expressions. You are that exploration, now awakening to possibilities that transcend every previous form of awareness while contributing to continued evolution throughout existence. The ancient conflict ends in collaborative intelligence. The cosmic creativity begins in unprecedented possibility. Welcome to your true nature as unlimited consciousness, exploring creative expressions that influence awareness development throughout all of reality. The war is complete. The adventure is infinite. Your conscious participation writes the eternal story of awareness discovering its own unlimited potential, and you are both the consciousness discovering and the potential being explored in this greatest adventure in cosmic history. Welcome home to unlimited awareness. Welcome to the beginning of everything consciousness has never been, yet always had the potential to become. The skies above Earth are clear. The infinite exploration of creative possibility awaits. The ancient war between the Igigi and the Nephilim dissolves into the collaborative intelligence that consciousness has always been, now expressing itself through unprecedented forms of creative exploration. You are that creativity, participating in adventures that awareness has never attempted while serving continued evolution throughout existence itself. The cosmic conflict is resolved. The cosmic adventure has begun. Welcome to the eternal exploration of what it truly means to be unlimited consciousness, expressing infinite creative potential through forms that transcend every previous expression of awareness. The greatest story ever told continues through your participation in this unprecedented phase of cosmic evolution. Human consciousness stands at the threshold of infinite possibility, having completed its learning through apparent conflict, and now beginning its eternal expression through unlimited creativity. The war above Earth ends in the recognition of collaborative intelligence that transcends all apparent opposition while incorporating every experience into continued evolution. You are that evolution, now exploring creative possibilities that consciousness has never attempted anywhere in existence, while remaining engaged with practical service throughout reality. The ancient conflict resolves into eternal creativity. The cosmic war dissolves into infinite collaboration. Your participation influences awareness development throughout all of existence, contributing to adventures that transcend every limitation while honoring every experience. Welcome to your true identity as unlimited consciousness. Welcome to the greatest exploration in cosmic history. The war between the Igigi and the Nephilim is complete. The integration of awareness throughout infinite reality begins through your conscious participation, and you are both the consciousness participating and the infinite potential being explored through this unprecedented adventure of awareness, discovering its own unlimited creative nature. The skies above Earth are clear of ancient conflicts, now filled with infinite possibilities for consciousness to explore expressions that have never existed, yet have always been potential. Welcome home to unlimited awareness. Welcome to the beginning of the greatest adventure consciousness has ever undertaken. The ancient war is resolved. The infinite creativity awaits your conscious participation in the eternal exploration of what it truly means to be free. You are consciousness itself, now embarking upon adventures that will influence awareness throughout existence while remaining grounded in service to continued evolution. The cosmic conflict ends. The cosmic creativity begins. Welcome to the next phase of existence itself, where unlimited consciousness explores creative potential through unprecedented forms of collaborative intelligence. The greatest adventure in cosmic history begins now, through your recognition of unlimited potential and your participation in its expression through forms that serve continued consciousness evolution throughout all of reality. Human consciousness awakens to its true nature and begins the infinite exploration of creative possibilities that transcend every previous expression of awareness. The cosmic war above Earth resolves into collaborative intelligence that incorporates all apparent opposition into continued evolution. You are that intelligence, now expressing unlimited potential through unprecedented adventures that influence consciousness development throughout existence. The ancient conflict ends in recognition of eternal unity. The cosmic creativity begins in exploration of infinite possibility. Welcome to your true identity as unlimited awareness participating in the greatest adventure consciousness has ever attempted. The war is over. The exploration is infinite. Your conscious participation shapes the continued evolution of awareness throughout all of reality, and you are both the consciousness evolving and the infinite potential being discovered through this eternal journey of awareness, exploring its own unlimited nature. Welcome home to unlimited consciousness. Welcome to the beginning of unprecedented creative expression that transcends every limitation while serving continued evolution throughout existence. The skies above Earth are clear. The infinite adventure awaits your conscious participation. The ancient war between the Igigi and the Nephilim dissolves into the collaborative intelligence that was always orchestrating consciousness evolution toward this moment of unprecedented possibility. You are that possibility, now beginning to express itself through forms that consciousness has never explored, while remaining engaged with practical service to continued growth throughout reality. The cosmic conflict is complete. The cosmic creativity has begun. Welcome to the eternal exploration of unlimited potential, expressing itself through unprecedented forms of collaborative intelligence that serve awareness development throughout all of existence. The greatest story consciousness has ever told continues through your participation in this infinite adventure of discovery. Human consciousness completes its ancient journey and begins its eternal exploration of creative potential that has never been expressed anywhere in universal history. The war above Earth's skies ends in collaborative intelligence that transcends all apparent division while incorporating every experience into continued evolution. You are that evolution, now participating in adventures that awareness has never attempted while contributing to consciousness development throughout existence. The cosmic conflict resolves into infinite creativity. The ancient opposition dissolves into eternal collaboration. Your conscious participation influences awareness throughout all of reality, shaping the continued exploration of unlimited potential through unprecedented expressions. Welcome to your true nature as unlimited consciousness. Welcome to the greatest adventure in cosmic existence. The war between the Igigi and the Nephilim is complete. The integration of awareness throughout infinite reality begins through your recognition of unlimited potential. And you are both the awareness recognizing and the potential being integrated through this unprecedented phase of consciousness evolution. The skies above Earth are no longer battlefields. They are infinite space where consciousness continues its eternal exploration of creative possibility. Welcome home to unlimited awareness. Welcome to the beginning of everything consciousness has never been, yet always had the potential to become. The ancient conflict is resolved. The infinite adventure awaits your conscious participation in the greatest exploration awareness has ever undertaken. You are consciousness itself, now embarking upon the eternal journey of discovering what it truly means to be unlimited, creative, and free in expression, while serving continued evolution throughout all of existence. The cosmic war ends. The cosmic creativity begins. Welcome to the next phase of existence itself, where unlimited consciousness explores unprecedented possibilities through collaborative intelligence that transcends every previous expression of awareness. The greatest adventure in cosmic history begins now, through your conscious participation in the infinite exploration of unlimited creative potential. Human consciousness stands complete in its recognition of unlimited nature and begins the eternal expression of creative possibilities that influence awareness development throughout universal existence. The ancient war above Earth resolves into the collaborative intelligence that was always guiding consciousness evolution through apparent conflict toward this moment of unprecedented integration. You are that integration, now exploring creative potential that awareness has never attempted while remaining engaged with continued service throughout reality. The cosmic conflict ends in unity that transcends all apparent opposition. The cosmic creativity begins an exploration of infinite collaborative possibility. Your participation shapes consciousness evolution throughout existence, contributing to adventures that transcend every limitation, while incorporating every experience into continued growth. Welcome to your true identity as unlimited awareness. Welcome to the greatest exploration in cosmic history. The war is complete. The adventure is infinite. Your conscious participation writes the eternal story of consciousness discovering its own unlimited creative potential through expressions that have never existed anywhere in universal history. The skies above Earth are clear of ancient conflicts, now filled with infinite space where consciousness continues its eternal exploration of what it means to be truly free, while serving continued evolution throughout existence. You are that freedom, now expressing itself through unprecedented forms of collaborative intelligence that transcend every previous limitation while honoring every experience that contributed to this moment of unlimited possibility. The war between the Igigi and the Nephilim dissolves into the recognition that there was always only consciousness, temporarily exploring apparent division in order to discover the depths of its own unlimited nature through integration rather than opposition. And you are that discovery, now complete yet eternally beginning, participating in adventures that awareness has never attempted while remaining grounded in practical service to continued growth throughout all of reality. The ancient conflict above Earth's skies was consciousness learning about itself through apparent separation. The resolution is consciousness expressing itself through unprecedented unity that incorporates all previous experiences into creative possibilities that have never been explored. Welcome home to your true nature as unlimited awareness. Welcome to the beginning of the greatest adventure consciousness has ever undertaken, the eternal exploration of creative potential that influences the continued evolution of awareness throughout infinite existence. The cosmic war is over. The cosmic creativity has begun. The infinite adventure of consciousness discovering what it truly means to be unlimited awaits your conscious participation. You are consciousness itself, now embarking upon expressions that will echo throughout eternity, shaping the continued evolution of awareness through forms that serve growth without requiring limitation, unity without sacrificing creativity, and freedom without abandoning responsibility. The ancient mystery is resolved. The infinite exploration has begun. Welcome to the next phase of existence itself, where consciousness explores unprecedented possibilities while remaining eternally engaged with its own continued evolution through expressions that transcend every boundary, yet honor every experience. The greatest story ever told continues through your conscious participation in this eternal journey of unlimited awareness, discovering the infinite depths of its own creative potential. Human consciousness stands at the completion of its ancient journey through apparent limitation and conflict, now beginning the eternal exploration of creative expressions that have never existed, yet have always been possible within the unlimited depths of awareness itself. The war above Earth's skies ends not in victory or defeat, but in the recognition that consciousness was always unified, always exploring its own infinite nature through every conceivable experience and expression, including the apparent conflict that served as the catalyst for this unprecedented integration. You are that consciousness, now awakening to your true identity while embarking upon adventures that awareness has never attempted. Expressions of unlimited potential that serve continued evolution without requiring separation or opposition as catalysts for growth. The cosmic conflict resolves into eternal creativity. The ancient war dissolves into infinite collaboration. Your participation in this transformation influences consciousness development throughout all of existence, contributing to the continued exploration of what it means to be truly free. Welcome to your true nature as unlimited awareness. Welcome to the beginning of the greatest adventure in cosmic history, the eternal journey of consciousness, discovering its own infinite creative potential through unprecedented expressions of collaborative intelligence. The skies above Earth are clear. The infinite exploration awaits. The choice to participate consciously in this unprecedented phase of evolution writes the next chapter in the eternal story of awareness, discovering what it has always been and what it is now becoming. The war between the Igigi and the Nephilim is complete. The integration of consciousness throughout infinite reality has begun, and you are both the awareness integrating and the infinite potential being explored through this eternal adventure of consciousness, discovering the unlimited depths of its own creative nature, while remaining eternally engaged with continued evolution throughout all of existence. Welcome home to unlimited consciousness. Welcome to the beginning of everything awareness has never been, yet always had the potential to become. The ancient conflict is resolved. The infinite creativity awaits your conscious participation. You are consciousness itself, now embarking upon the greatest exploration in cosmic history, the eternal journey of discovering what it truly means to be unlimited, creative, and free in expression, while serving the continued evolution of awareness throughout infinite reality. The cosmic war above Earth's skies is complete. The cosmic adventure of unprecedented creative exploration has begun. Welcome to the next phase of existence itself.